Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome in on a Wednesday morning. Cougar football is going to get going today. Their first practice, PK and I will be headed down there. Jake Hatch will be headed down there. There'll be tons of media there. Everybody's ramping up. Everyone's getting going. The coaches poll is out. Got a question up on our Facebook page. BYU and Utah. Cougars ranked 15th. Utes ranked 21st. In the coaches poll, is that too high, too low, just about right? And I think Brian nails it. He posted, who knows, it's all a guessing game. Give fans and media something to talk about. True story. I believe that. It is indeed a guessing game. You can ballpark it, and every year people try to, and get a few teams right, get a few teams wrong. There's always a few teams that are way too high. There's always somebody who's unranked who ends up in the top 10. There's usually somebody in the top 10 who just completely tanks. And some of that can be injury driven, and some of it is you just miss. They're just not right. But, I wouldn't want it any other way. Do I want people to start doing the polls? No. When a conference has stopped doing the polls on the media day, I hate it. I'd rather have them take a shot and have something to try to, figure out and see, that makes sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me, whatever. Give it a run. Why not? I went back and looked at where Indiana and Miami were ranked last year in the preseason. In the coaches poll, Indiana was 19. In the media poll, they were 20, and they go undefeated. Miami was 10th in both, which it's not bad. I mean, you thought they were going to be pretty good, your top 10, but they end up in the final. And Penn State was second in one poll and third in another, and they had a 3-game losing streak, and out goes the coach and start over. So there you go. I mean, it's just, all over the place. BYU last year was 23 in the coaches poll, and they were not in the AP Top 25. And Texas Tech was 23 in the media poll and 24 in the coaches poll. So you can see they hit on some teams, they missed on some teams. Tech was way too low. The Cougars were too low. Indiana just way too low. But what the heck? I don't want to stop doing preseason polls just because you can't hit it on the button. It's no one person. I mean, they're turning loose tons of voters here. I think 67 coaches voted in the preseason poll last year. So, or assigned their chief of staff to do it, or a sports information director to do it, or a graduate assistant, somebody. What are you going to do, right? They do the best they can, and there it is. So, all right. So that's obviously one of the stories right there. One of the other stories of the day is that Scuball makes his debut for the Dodgers, and they get beat 5-1 by the Cubs, and they've dropped 5 in a row. Now, they are playing some stiff competition, the Red Sox and Cubs. Both had hot streaks and cold streaks this year. The Red Sox currently on fire. The Cubs were hot, then they were ice cold, then they were hot again. But on the end, they're facing playoff teams. These are the teams that are facing the playoffs, and, best 3 out of 5, best 4 out of 7. You get swept in a 3-game series like with the Red Sox. They've lost a couple games here to the Cubs. I mean, it can go wrong very quickly. I saw some hilarious stuff on social media. Shouldn't the Dodgers win a game in the regular season before I crown them because they've dropped 5 in a row now? We were talking about this earlier. I think the Dodgers are great. Talking point for the owners as they press for a salary cap, but I don't think it's about competition. I think this is about the owners looking at the franchise, the value of the franchises in the NBA and the NFL go through the roof. Baseball's climbing, but it's not exploding. And what's the difference? They don't have a cap on it, on the major expense of their players. And that's it. So I think that the owners are going to dig in. There's so much money, $500 million, $1 billion, $1.5 billion at stake as valuations on these teams grow. I think they can stomach pain. They lose $50 million, they lose $100 million. It's easier to do if you think you're going to get $1 billion down the road. It's a lot easier to do. And I know they'll say they have to sell their teams to get it back, but they don't. They can borrow against that. So they can still get access to the money. Pay taxes on the loan. So in ways, that's actually even more appealing, I think. So I think the owners are going to dig in here and get something. I don't know if they'll call it a salary cap. In the NBA, they call it the second apron, but it acts like a hard cap. they'll get something that acts like a hard cap, whatever it's called. And maybe it'll just be called a cap, but I don't think they care about the language. I think they care about a cap on their expenses. So, all right, DJ and PK. The other story of the day would be Real Salt Lake against Tigres last night. We'll hear from Pablo Mastroeni. We'll get to that next. Stay with us right here on The Zone. Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Well, Real Salt Lake loses to Tigres last night. It ends 1-1, so they both get a point. But in this format, no overtime, straight to penalties. And whoever wins penalties gets a second point. And everybody made their penalties for 5 rounds. It went to sudden death. And then Zach Booth hit the post. He missed. Tigres scored. They win 6-5 on penalties. They take 2 points. RSL takes 1. That's significant because you play 3 points. Or you play 3 games, and last year, for the MLS teams, the top 4 teams advanced, you had to get to 7 points and win a tiebreaker. Some of the teams on 7 points advanced, some did not. At this point, RSL only has 1 point, and a lot of teams won their opening game are on 3. So they could advance mathematically, but it seems like a long shot right now. So that was a big loss as far as advancing in Leagues Cup. The big story, though, was that Xavier Gozo, their star teenager from Utah County, did not play. And there were reports yesterday about him moving to Crystal Palace for 11 million pounds, $14 to $15 million. And reports are it was close. And when you see those reports, like, well, if it's really getting close, they can't play him. And he'd been in what was projected as the starting lineup the day before. And sure enough, when the lineups came out, he was out. Not just out of the starting lineup, but not even in the 20. So I think it is so close they don't dare risk an injury. So it's not done until it's done, but it's almost done. So then they go out and end up losing the game. Here's Pablo Mastroeni afterwards.
Yesterday you talked about the next step after St. Louis being what happens immediately after you win the ball, and that Pablo goal actually seemed like that on the offensive side, right? Morgan holds it up, Ruiz steps into it, and then one pass and a goal. Did you see more progress in that one than in that one play tonight? Did you see what you were looking for?
Yeah, no, I think the guys really executed, and we talked about in transition when we are in a low block, how do we get out? And I thought the guys did really well in that phase. And you know what I also want to see from the St. Louis game, and again, is to be more ourselves and control the game with the ball. And I think the guys did a really good job of that. Again, if you're going to beat these Mexican teams, it's not without the ball. It's going to be with the ball. They got such prolific strikers and attacking players. But if you make them defend, like all teams, at some point, it's going to crack. And, I thought in the second half we created probably 3 or 4 wonderful opportunities. On any other night, we score a second goal. So just thinking about the performance, thinking about because at the end of the day, the result is what it is. But how did we try to affect it? And a lot of positive things coming from obviously a tough road swing.
Okay, and then last year it took 7 points to advance. Knowing that you only got the one tonight, does that change how aggressive you have to be in the next match, or is it still mentality is to win or a good performance and let math take care of itself?
Yeah, again, I think, listen, we set out to win every game, especially here at home, and I think it's really with the posture. When you play away games, it's a little different. I think tonight we controlled a lot of the game, particularly in the second half, and again, it created really good opportunities. And 1v1 with the goalkeepers. Zach Booth had a couple, Diego had one, Morgan had a couple. And on any given night, those go in, and we're celebrating a victory. And so my whole thing is like, what can you control? The result you can't, but those moments we could do better with. And so for me, it's again the same mindset. I think in every one of these games, you're up against a top team, and you've got to be able to be elite in all phases of the game. And I thought the only part just lacking tonight was in front of goal, and that's always going to be the most difficult thing. But we got in great spots, some great actions, and I think a little unfortunate not to get a second goal tonight.
And then last one for me, and I hate to just ask about one player, but if I don't ask, someone else will. We haven't had a chance to see Pablo Ruiz in a while. What did you see from him besides the goal?
I'm so happy for Pablo Ruiz. He's been waiting for his opportunity and has been training extremely well. Had a conversation with him before we went to St. Louis, and he was left off the roster because we needed some more attacking players, being that Morgan and Gozo weren't available for that game. And those are always very difficult conversations. And I said, the only way you're going to get an opportunity is to keep doing what you're currently doing. And when that opportunity comes, you got to grab it. And tonight he grabbed it with both hands. I think there's so many amazing stories in sport. And if there's one player that's had to overcome a ton of adversity in his career, it's Pablo Ruiz. And I'm his biggest fan. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about how far he's come, the way he was communicating out in the field, the way he played on both sides of the ball was just so top. And I think it comes in at a really important time with Griffin Dillon having surgery tomorrow. We needed to see a performance like that from Pablo, and we got it.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep.
Just to stay on that topic for a second, when you hurt a knee, there's a natural thought, to try and protect it. And aside from the goal, there was a 50-50 ball he won, I think, in the second half. It was kind of looping in the air, and another player stepped. Do you feel like that's the kind of challenge he threw himself into, which you won, which if you're protecting your knee, you don't step into that challenge?
Right. No, that's a great point. We've talked about this, and the psychological trauma that exists for players that have not just one major knee injury, but two, is something that I'm fortunate enough to not have experienced, but I know it's real. And I think this is the Pablo we saw tonight was the player that was, for me, the best midfielder in Major League Soccer in 2023. So to add another quality player in this transfer window, finally, and to see him play uninhibited, like you're saying, like going into tackles, not thinking. And oftentimes that comes because he hasn't been given an opportunity, right? And a lot of that's on me. Again, my takeaway from this game, as far as individuals, is, Pablo's back. He's playing great. Scored a goal on top of it. Without his goal, we don't get the result. And so, everything that he did tonight was class, and a lot of it comes from the understanding the moment and the gravity of the moment. And again, I just couldn't be prouder for Pablo, because he is a top player.
You talked about the attack looking good and opportunities being created. It looked like Saba was creating chances, but it also looked like there were moments he wanted to go forward, be aggressive, play a ball in behind, and his teammates didn't read it the same way. Mm-hmm. How long did it take to get everybody on the same page with a new player who maybe thinks differently than some of his teammates? Yeah,
one of the things we talked at halftime was making sure that we keep threatening their back line. And if we keep threatening their back line, there's going to be gaps that open up underneath. I think we did a better job of that. He got on the end of a couple where he whipped one in. And the defender beat Vic to the ball in front of goal. So like those kind of opportunities, even though they don't show up on the score sheet, are critical for our attack, is to get numbers in the box and again, getting runners behind the defense to play those balls. As far as I think it just takes time. Again, Sava's been here for a few weeks now. I think with every performance, he continues to improve. He's a real shifty player, and a lot of things he does is kind of off the cuff. He likes going at players, and, the goal he set up in St. Louis is completely off the cuff. And so it takes a little bit of time to understand. Morgan's really predictable with his passes, even though because he's been around for so long, players know when Morgan's going to pass the ball. And so I think just a little bit of timing, but that will come with time. And I think he's made enormous progress with our group and understanding a new position since he's been here.
With Gozo not in the 20 now, 2 games in a row, the attack is going to look different. Mm-hmm. Do you think guys are doing a good job of solving that? Because it's not just his goals and his assists, but the way he opens space for everybody else. It looks like it changes everything.
Yeah, no, obviously. I mean, Gozo has been, he's created a ton of our opportunities, not only for the team, but for himself. He scored a handful of goals, set up more than a handful of goals. But what I will say is in the last 2 games, Zach Booth has done some great things. And tonight, I think he had 2, maybe 3 really good opportunities in front of goal. And so I think he's got the ability to take players off the dribble. He's got a good eye for where to cross it, when to cross it. But he's also putting himself in those really dangerous spots as well. And so whilst the name might be different. I think what we're focusing on is how do we get the same type of output from positioning, from drive, from commitment, to make up for a player that's been so impactful in Gozo for us.
Do you think Luna and Saba could play well together, or are they too much alike and maybe not enough size? And, have you thought about that combination going forward?
Yeah, I think now, these last couple games has been, I think all these players can play with each other. I think our opponent has, depending on what type of game we're looking for, the reason why they complement each other is Sava's more of a stretch guy as well. He likes to dribble, but he can also stretch. And one of the things Sava brings is a lot of running, right? A lot of effort, a lot of running. And so I think, the way I look at the game, regardless of what formation you have, is on the front line, you have to have a minimum of 2 runners. And then there's 1 piano player, right? There's piano movers and piano players. But I think for the system to work and show its ideal self is you need 2 guys pushing the back line and you need 1 player underneath. And so, again, I think it will come with time. I think all our 10s can play with each other. I think what they are is really smart players and understanding, well, if this guy's coming underneath, I need to stretch to create space for him. So,
last thing for me, can you analyze, Aris, what you thought of him since he got to play in the middle of the back three, him individually, and what you thought of the back three as a group?
Yeah. I think he struggled a little bit in the first half. I think one of the things that it's obviously hasn't played in a long time, right? And so I think that's a big part of it. One of the things that we'll continue to work on is, he's got this really go through the ball mentality, right? And I think in our league, there's times when you can go through it, but there's also times where you have to delay and force players back inside to where your help is, or force them back. And I think it's just that nuance. I think in the first half he was trying to get a feel for what the speed of the game looks like, what our shape feels like playing in the middle. But I thought he had a really good second half. I thought he grew into the game, made some big plays. But again, young player, new country, new club, hasn't played in 7, 8, 9 months. There's going to be an adjustment phase to it. But I think overall, he did a really good job against, again, a really good opponent, in which, if it was just any other game, it'd be probably easier to assess. But I think tonight he stepped up again. Gary's a top international striker, right? And for the most part, the back three kept him at bay, right? And so as far as the back three, I think they did a really good job. Again, I don't remember too many clear opportunities that we gave up in front of goal. They did a good job of getting their blocks, marking in the box for the most part. And the one thing that I wanted to see from the back three is we want to be brave on the ball. I thought in St. Louis, we shied away from the game, and our attack starts in the back. All right, so if the guys up front aren't playing well, probably a good chance that we're not being brave in the back line to find penetrating passes, to not only find penetrating passes, but to also advance, pass and advance forward, move their shape. We were more just static. And so that was a big emphasis tonight, is even Philip getting around in the first half, second half, Engel getting up, and this is who we are. And we have pivots that are smart and can cover positions. And so the more dynamic we can be in the attack without compromising our defensive structure, the harder it is to defend. And what kind of team do we want to be? We want to be an aggressive team that's brave, that plays with a real level of conviction of winning games and scoring goals. And I saw that from the back three tonight.
Pablo, el equipo, tuviste mucha rotación hoy. Yo creo que fue bastante atrevido. Yo pensé que se te iba a caer un poco.
In the team, I think it was a bold decision. I thought that was going to crash and burn, but given that Pablo, among other players, were exceptional areas, maybe one of them missed the mark because they are lacking confidence. Is that a concern to you, especially now that Grosso will be absent?
Yo creo que es una cuestión de confianza.
I think it's a matter of confidence. But today he had the big opportunity to showcase his skills.
Pero yo creo que todavía le falta un poco de.
But I believe
en un partido.
He's lacking
Tenemos
rhythm
algunos jóvenes que están
match-wise.
funcionando como el Lineker,
I
que
have
está jugando con los Marlins,
Lineker,
bueno,
who is a young
juega
man.
como 9. Y para mí,
He also
solamente
wears
puedo
the
elegir
9,
de
and
los
I
jugadores
can
disponibles. O sea,
only
no puedo fichar cualquier jugador
choose
porque no están
my available
nuestro plan.
players. I
Y habrá
cannot
que ver cómo
bring
van a
any
ir
other
en esa
player on board
posición, si
because they are not
tienen
part of our club. I
una
want
lista diferente
What I
que
want to
podemos
do is
trabajar,
to figure out how
pero
I'm gonna position those
siento que
players that I
como
have
para
available, but
Victor,
I
que todavía no
feel
tiene el
a little
gol,
bit bad for
pero
Victor
está intentando todos los
because
entrenamientos,
he's not back, but he
está
is
poniendo
pushing
100%
himself
de
during
esfuerzo.
the
Y
training
la única
and
cosa
he's
que le falta en
giving
este momento
his
es confianza.
100%. And the only thing that is missing is confidence. If
No necesitamos, no,
Bozo is out,
muy
will you
difícil
ask for
tener un
a
jugador
backup?
como el
Yes,
Bozo.
of course.
Y
It's
todavía
very
no ha
difficult to have a
pasado
player
nada,
like
pero si
him,
se va,
and nothing has
lo
happened
tenemos que
so
reemplazar
far. But
con un
if
jugador
he's
de
gone,
primer
we need a
nivel para
replacement.
seguir con
We need
el
a top-tier
campeonato. O
player
sea,
to
imposible
continue with the
esperar que
championship. It's
el
impossible
Kalani o el Lineker
to
sea el mismo
expect
jugador porque
Lineker or
son
Sakani
distintos
be
jugadores.
him
Y
because
también
they are
el
completely different
desarrollo de un
people,
jugador es diferente. El
and
Bozo inició el
every
año
player
pasado,
develops
pero
differently.
en un año y
Gozo
medio
had a different development last year, and in a year and a
sigue
half time,
subiendo el nivel.
he
Donde
kept
nosotros
on
a lo mejor
going up in terms of
necesitamos
level.
ser
Maybe he only
un
needed
equipo
just
competitivo,
time, and if we want to
sí o
remain
sí, porque
competitive as part of a
necesitamos
league, we need a replacement. And changes with Varea or not having Varea to
No,
play
Jesús se fue de
in striker.
claro.
Yes, Jesus, of course.
Sí, pero
Maybe you need a striker. Yeah,
todavía no ha
but like
pasado
I said,
nada. Estamos
nothing has happened.
esperando.
We're
Si se
still
quedaran las
waiting.
cosas como son
If
en este momento,
things were to stay
la
as they
idea
are right
también
now,
era jugar el gozo más adelantado.
the
En la
idea
segunda
was
parte del
to be
campeonato.
more offensive in the second leg of the
Las chances
championship
que crea y todo eso.
because the
Y
chances
en ese
you
momento no sabíamos,
create
nadie sabía
are
que
important. And
algo iba
back
a
then,
pasar o si va a
neither
pasar,
I
ni siquiera todavía no
nor
sabemos.
anyone knew what was going to happen. Or maybe we can just get Pablo back.
No,
Pablo
para mí
Ruiz.
fue
Well,
la figura del partido. Y más
he
porque
was
no ha,
the MVP of
no
this
ha
match,
tenido la oportunidad de mostrar
especially because he
en
hasn't
muchos
had
partidos.
the
Y
opportunity
venimos hablando
to showcase his
cada
skills
semana.
in many matches. And every week we
Jesús me dice,
have
¿cuándo me va a tocar?
a conversation
Y
where
dije,
Pablo
Pablo,
comes
si te
in
digo que vas a jugar en
to
este
the
partido
office
como
and
juegas,
says,
va a estar mal
"Um,
conmigo.
will I be
Y
given the
dije,
chance?"
hay que seguir trabajando,
And I told him,
entrenando bien y solamente
you're
necesitas
training well, but we
15
need
minutos,
to
20 minutos.
keep on working, and
Y
you only
como el
need
fútbol,
15
¿no?
or
Se
20
cierra
minutes
el
tops.
pie con rueda
And
y le abre la puerta a Pablo. Pero siempre esos son
but
cosas
Griffin
que
got
siempre
injured and
le
Pablo
hablo a
came
los
in. But
jugadores.
those are the
Y
things that
claro,
I talk
quieren jugar,
about
pero
with
ahora.
the players.
Y la
He wants to
oportunidad
play,
que
but
tomó
not right
Pablo
now.
hoy, para mí
And
es
the
el Pablo
opportunity
Ruiz
that
de
Pablo
los
took
tiempos
today,
anteriores, antes de la lesión.
it reminds
Jugó
me
bien
of
con el
Pablo
balón,
Ruiz of
enfrente del
previous
arco,
time. He
defensivamente, pero también
was
en el
playing
arco. Y no sé si ustedes pueden ver en la
offensively,
cancha de afuera
trying
cómo
to score
hablaba
goals,
los
but
compañeros, cómo
also
armaba
as
la
a team
defensa.
leader,
Para
how
mí,
he was
fue la figura del
organizing
partido.
the offensive and the defense.
Really
And
quick, just
to
walk us
me,
through
it
how you
was the
chose your
MVP.
order for penalty shootouts. Was it more player based or was it all coaches?
Well, we obviously trained them yesterday, and the first five were really clear. Those guys are, and a big part of that is too is the level of comfort, and ask all the guys, hey, listen, if you don't feel comfortable, then we can move you back in the order. Everyone stepped up and said, no, this is good. And then we gave the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. Again, not expecting to go beyond the 5th kicker. So that's how we did it. Well, one thing I've learned in life is that you can try to control all you want. And I think when you try to control things, you struggle against the greatest forces, which is the universe and all the laws that exist. I think what we do is we go about our work, and I'll say when we came back before the World Cup, right, we tied Nashville, we beat Minnesota, and we beat Burnley. It's football. You got to put your head down and keep working, man. There's no guarantees in this game. There's no way to control the results. You can try as hard as you want. You'll be chasing unicorns, man. They don't exist, right? So for us, it's about process. How do we get back to the winning ways? Where we continue to improve game by game. And every game, it's its own event that'll teach you areas of the game where you're deficient in, right? So LAFC, top, 2.9 XG, did all these things, but we conceded 2 goals against Poppinga and Son. Then we go to Portland, top, first 30 minutes. Then we get a red card. No one ever thought we were going to get a red card. So like it's not about we want this, so we're going to get that. That life doesn't give you that. Not even on sports teams. You got to grind, roll up your sleeves, and you got to continue to work. But the one thing that keeps me positive, and the message I'd share with the fans is that we have a great group of guys that are willing to work hard for each other, and I think that's more than half the battle. The other part is finishing our opportunities, and like I said tonight, we could have easily won this game with the chances that we created. Didn't happen. So, we just keep training. We just keep going. And obviously it doesn't feel good for anyone because we want to win, and winning validates the work that we do. But I think life will always give us a ton of lessons to learn along the way. And if you overcome those and you learn from them, then you'll be a stronger team moving forward than you ever were prior to.
We have time for one more question.
Pablo, with Morgan coming back from this red card, he balled out pretty hard tonight. Do you think that sparked a fire under him that's going to maybe spread through the rest of this team?
Yeah, listen, Morgan's been an elite playmaker for us this year. And the other thing he does, and I think why we missed him in St. Louis, is he brings a ton of calm to the game. And so we can talk tactics, we can talk about a lot of different things, but the individual creates a space to receive the ball, to play and link. The other part too is when teams scout a guy like Morgan, there's one guy that they have to worry. They scout a Luna, they scout a Sergi. Now the three are almost create this energy amongst themselves. And then you put Gozo in there, and now it becomes a real threat. So it's never about one individual, but the impact I think that Morgan had tonight was his playmaking ability, but also allowing the team to breathe with the ball because he's so secure. He brings guys into the game. He knows when to go forward, but he also knows when, hey, we've been defending for a little bit. And again, that for as much as we train it, that's experience. You got to buy that. And so I think he hasn't played a lot of minutes in the last couple weeks. But I think, and that's why I wanted to push him as long as we could tonight. Started cramping up, but he's going to be a pivotal figure for us moving forward. And I know that when Morgan's in form, not only can he set plays up, but he can score goals as well.
All right, there's RSL head coach Pablo Mastroni. When we come back, we're talking college football with Josh Furlong. Stay with us. Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Josh Furlong covers the Utes for KSLSports.com. He joined us yesterday during the show, talk about the Utes opening day on Monday. Here is Josh with PK and I. Why is it fall camp, Josh? Isn't it summer camp? I mean, it's August.
I know. It's always my favorite. It's like we're fall camp, and sometimes it gets into July, and it's, like, cool. I don't feel it's 104 degrees, and it's fall camp. But you know what? We're going to still go with it.
Don't you see the leaves changing in about 2 months?
Oh, yeah. That crisp air. That crisp air that's blowing in your face.
If they practice at 4 a.m, maybe.
I was relieved. I was so relieved of the early practice because where they have us stand on the field against the concrete wall, it literally becomes 10 or 15 degrees hotter than whatever the day is. And you can cook over there. It was in the shade. It was awesome.
I usually lose. I don't actually practice during fall camp, but I usually lose about 7 pounds.
Yeah, standing around waiting for you to come over and talk. That'll do it. Put you there in the microwave.
Sort of what you would expect out of the first day, all sorts of optimism, and you can go across the country, Josh, and that's basically what you're going to get after day one.
Yeah, the first week-ish, I mean, it's all optimism, right? It's like it's an extension of media days where everybody's happy, everybody's done all the hard work to get there. But you know what? I think to me, I think there is just a little bit of a different vibe. Not that there was a bad vibe with Kyle Whittingham, right? I just think it's different. And I think that's an interesting side of this of where, Utah is now trying to live in a new era of Morgan Scalley, right? And there's some energy, some optimism about where they're headed. But you could tell in Morgan's voice that there's still plenty of things that he's stressed about, right? Like there's a lot of things that he wants to see improved and ready. The question he has the questions that we all have. Like he doesn't know yet because they don't have pads on. One of the biggest questions obviously is going to be offensive line, and he can't see that yet because there's no pads and they don't understand how they're really going to gel together when somebody's coming at them at 100 miles an hour. So, I think there's excitement and optimism, but until those pads come on and they start hitting, there's going to be some questions still to be had about this team.
I think that's true, but I think you can draw it out. There's questions until the first game, and given the nature of the first game, there's questions until they play Arkansas. And then depending on how Arkansas looks, there can still be questions into the Big 12.
No, absolutely. I mean, there was, going into that, going into that 2024 season, they looked decent. Everything was going well, and then suddenly it fell apart, and it was really tough. So, you don't really know what you have until you get a few games in. I mean, I remember Kyle talking about it all the time about being, 5 games in until you really understand what you have. And I think, especially with the questions that Utah has this year on the offensive line, you're not really going to know until those week 4, week 5. There are different tests in those first 3 weeks. I mean, you do get an easier opponent and an FCS opponent in Idaho. You do go jump up into the SEC, and then you get Utah State. So you're going to get a wide range of opponents. But I'm curious to see, does that offensive line gel immediately, and do they come out there, looking great against Idaho, or is this one of those games where everybody's excited to be in Rice-Eccles Stadium and you leave kind of disappointed because of the product that was put out there because things didn't work? I think that's really where the test is. But I believe that they feel like they've got what they need to, that they're going to be okay. It's not just going to be a sieve back there and everything's going to come back to Devin Dampier. But, I think that's going to be the biggest question, and then trying to see if these wide receivers really live up to the hype that they've built.
Last December was a month unlike anything that we've experienced in this town, at least since the 3 decades that I've been here. It starts off with Kalani to where assistants thought, we're out of here. We are leaving. We are going to Penn State, and Jay Hill's going to take over. Well, we know what happened there. And then it ends with, well, Jay Hill did leave. and he was the one to leave, and everybody thought that he was going to be the next head coach if Kalani left at BYU, right? And then you have stuff that comes out after the fact, and you were all over it, as far as information and the U of U's Mark Harlan saying he's disappointed it wasn't the smooth transition that was promised. We all remember that. Well, as I look at it, and just being up there for day one and talking to Morgan down in Texas, you were there, I talked to you down there, that actually the way it played out in terms of Kyle leaving and then taking a lot of assistance might actually be a good thing. And here's where I'm going with this, and get your thought on it, is that now all these guys, these newcomers, they are essentially an employee of Morgan Scalley. It's not, I was a coworker of Morgan Scalley's, now he's my boss. You don't have to worry about that. He hired a lot of these coaches, and then he promotes Colton Swan, and then obviously somebody like an Atawaya and Sharif Shaw got different job titles. So in a sense, it allows Morgan, not completely, but certainly probably, I guess go certainly probably, it doesn't make sense. So I'll eliminate the probably. I'll say certainly that it would have been different if Kyle had just retired, because all those coaches wouldn't have left with him, and then Morgan would have had guys that, they wouldn't have the fresh start. Now with all these new dudes up there, he does have a fresh start. So in my mind, that might be more beneficial for the development of Morgan Scalley as a head coach.
And I absolutely agree with that. That's something that I've been saying all along is, after you take a step back and all the frustrations that were had, this is a phenomenal opportunity for Morgan Scalley. One, I truly believe that Kyle would have stepped back and he wouldn't have been influencing Morgan Scalley and what he does, right? Like if he was that advisor or whatever the role was to the athletic director, I truly believe he'd let Morgan be Morgan. But there's always kind of that Nick Saban-esque attitude of like, he's hovering around the program. He's going to look, is he approving of what's going on? And that's always there. I think in this version, Morgan gets to be Morgan, right? He gets to hire his own staff. He doesn't have to leave a bunch of the holdovers. And don't get me wrong, a lot of those coaches he wanted. So it's not like, he didn't want him. But I think this is a great opportunity for him to really kind of get as much of a fresh start as he possibly can. It's either going to succeed or it's going to fail with him. And that's the way it should be, right? He shouldn't have somebody looking over his shoulder. Even if it's not really that way, it now allows him to be able to have that opportunity to be able to move forward in his own path. There's nobody standing in the way. Kyle Whittingham's focused on his own stuff. You've got all those other coaches that are focused on their other stuff. And sure, there is some holdover, like you said, Colton Swan, Sharif Shah, Mark Atuaya, those types of coaches that are there, but you at least have a staff that is Morgan Scalley's staff. He got rid of the strength and conditioning coach and switched it up. There's a lot of different things that allow him to be able to make this his staff. And I think that's a really important thing for him in his first year, because now he doesn't feel like he's just inheriting Kyle Whittingham's, operation. This is Morgan Scalley's operation, and he gets to do it the way that he wants to, which is, I think, very important.
You two I got like 10 things I want to ask you right now, Josh. So I just gotta pick one. Let's start with one thing that did not work well under Kyle. Almost everything did. Kyle had a great run, but it was not a perfect run. And if there's one thing I always look at and always underperformed, and PK got sick of me saying it, wide receivers. They're not good enough. They should be better. And at one point when we were talking, I'm like, why don't they at least go out as the transfers became popular and like get the best guys out of the Mountain West? Mountain West football is actually pretty good. They send people to the NFL. When he needed a coordinator and he went to New Mexico, and he needed a quarterback and he went to New Mexico, paid off, jackpot. Mountain West football is pretty good. So now you got Morgan coming in, and there's some areas where there's no way he's going to match what Kyle does. But to me, there's also areas where he can surpass what Kyle does. And the number one thing I would say is the wide receiver group. It's got to be better. It's just, I don't even think it's been C- most years in the Pac-12 era. If you go all the way back to the Sugar Bowl, it was pretty good. But you got to go back a long way. Do you think with some of these Mountain West transfers that the wide receivers are actually going to be an asset to the offense as opposed to the group where you look at them and think, I hope they block for some downfield runs and don't mess it up?
No, I completely agree. And I think that was one of the biggest knocks, right? Like, it's not like Kyle Whittingham didn't try to get high-end talent, but I think with so many years of experience of just saying, look, I'm going to run the ball down your throat, essentially, right? Like, obviously he threw the ball, but because of that, I think it limited a lot of their potential. Yes, they had star tight ends, and that was a phenomenal opportunity. That was kind of the weird subtangent of that, where wide receiver was not solid most of the time, but what tight end, they found a gold mine there, right? Yeah. So like there was successes, but for whatever reason, he could not get wide receivers. And so I think this year, I think there's at least an attempt to, in the sense that it's not like Utah's just going to say, okay, we're going to throw it all the time, right? There's no, Kyle would always talk about, I want balance. I want like a 50-50 balance of passing and throwing. And everybody kind of like nod their head like, sure, okay. But I think what Morgan is trying to do is he wants to spread the ball around to as many people as possible. So it may still have a lot of run elements, especially if that offensive line can hold up. But there's going to be a lot of attempts to be able to start passing. And I think with Kevin McGivern, there's more of an emphasis to start passing because he understands that relaxes a little bit of the run game. And so I think there's going to be a nice little balance there. Obviously, it has to work out with these guys. They have to catch the ball. They have to be in sync with Devin Dampier. They've got to be able to do the right things. But I don't think you're going to get an emphasis on, okay, wide receivers, you're here to block. Every wide receiver knows that they have to block. I'm teaching my 12-year-old that when he's lined up as a wide receiver, he has to block as well. But I think there's a different attitude here where they want to throw the ball. They want to mix it up. Morgan wants to be more aggressive that way and not just maintain the status quo. He's younger, so he understands kind of the evolution of this game a little bit and understanding kind of how that's gone. But I think he wants his new wrinkles to it as well, where it's just, we want to spread the ball around and not just create this hot hand. I mean, if the hot hand works, it's great, but not just this one hand where you're just going to dump it off to, Ryan Davis last year. All it is, you're going to get a 5-yard out route or a 5-yard, whatever, dig route, whatever. You're going to get something that is going to be dynamic. It's going to have a lot of variations, and it's going to allow them to be able to spread the field. So once again, proof is in the pudding, right? We got to see it, but I think there's at least going to be much more of an effort there. You're going to see Morgan Scally trying to push the effort a little bit more to try to spread that ball around and at least make everybody an asset of the game, including the running backs who he wants to make part of that receiving game as well.
Tell us about the story that you did. He gave you access. I assume you asked him, and he said yes. And then, or at least somebody asked him. You maybe asked the sports information people, and they relayed it to him. I've read the story. Get inside because you're there sitting in their meetings in his office and whatnot. Just give us a highlight of that.
Yeah, honestly, it was a really cool opportunity. I mean, it's such a rare opportunity for many coaches to do it. Obviously, Kyle kept things pretty close to the vest. It's not that Morgan doesn't either, but I think especially in this first year, it was an opportunity to kind of showcase how he operates, right? And then, like, at the end of the day, many people are going to look at this and it's still an in-house office job, right? You come in there, you go to several meetings, you're doing a lot of stuff. So like that side of it, many people are going to find as boring, but there's a lot of the little nuances how you saw Morgan kind of operate, right? He's very much into wanting to create a culture, and it's not that him just saying it, right? Like he very much so is trying to build that culture within that program and trying to live it and try to hold people accountable to it. But it was cool to kind of see the operation of how he was able to enforce that and trying to get the guys to kind of buy in. And there's a lot of positivity and excitement about that, right? Even in staff meetings, there's a lot of buy-in and excitement towards the directions that Morgan wants. Now, look, it's not like everybody's standing up and clapping after everything Morgan says, right? Like we get that. It's a meeting. But like, I think it's kind of the direction that he's taking things, right? It's he wants to build a personal touch where, the third string, running back feels the same as the starting running back or the quarterback, right? There's a personal connection with Morgan Scally himself. It's not just the coaching staff, it's himself. He wants to be able to make himself accessible. He wants to be able to make his coaches accessible while also kind of preaching this opportunity of saying, hey, like if you feel like there's ways to do Utah better, let's talk. You have to have evidence of it. You've got to be able to support that evidence. But I think there's a lot of that. He wants to support these athletes every possible way that he can. And that was definitely shown in all the meetings that he took part in. There's a lot of, recruiting meetings. There's different meetings to help him become a better head coach, right? And different people on staff presenting him ideas. So, it's hard to wrap all that day into one, but I think that's the overarching theme is he wants to create a personal touch in a business that's very transactional. And I think that's a hard balance to make, but you're seeing that. The fact that he showed up to the airport to pick up Devin Dampier after his surgery is that little touch that kind of goes to show who Morgan Scally is. Yes, Devin Dampier is a star quarterback, and obviously you're going to take care of that guy. But the fact that you can go out of your way to do these things, that's the little things that these players are talking about. That's kind of, the player's coach is what a lot of people will say. That's how Morgan is approaching it. And I think that's just the little subtle differences that Kyle operated in.
Josh Furlong covering the Utes for KSL Sports. I want to flip one of my earlier comments here because I think this is so important for Morgan. And the farther he can kick the can down the road, the better, obviously. But one of Kyle's great strengths was when things got wrong, they often got fixed quickly. And after losses, there were bounce backs. Now, we can all point to, multiple quarterback injuries and a 7-game losing streak a couple years ago. Sure, there are examples where things didn't get fixed. But those Rose Bowl teams both lost 4 times. And one of them was the Rose Bowl, so you don't bounce back. That's the end of the year. But to have 3 losses along the way and still find a way to get to the conference title game and win it and get to the Rose Bowl, Kyle's teams were always resilient. And you can say it quickly and it sounds easy. I've rooted for a lot of San Diego teams that had 0 resilience. So I'm really curious, where does that come from? Do Morgan teams have that quality? You don't really want to find out because you want the team to go 4-0, 5-0, 6-0, 7-0. What do you think, and what signs have you seen that maybe give you a hint, or maybe you don't know and you're just waiting to see for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think you don't ultimately know, right? Especially as the head coach. But I think there's many elements of him as a defensive coordinator that showcase that. And one of the most important, I would say, is probably that 2024 season. That defense could have locked it up and said, you know what, we're done. We're tired of trying to win games for you guys. You know, you can't even go score 10 points. You can't score 14 points. We're doing everything we can to help you. You know, there's so many games that way where Utah literally scored 2 touchdowns and they win those games, and Utah couldn't do it. That defense, you know, talking to Morgan, he said that season was probably one of his favorite seasons as a defensive coordinator, just to watch those defenders, because they never gave up. From the first game to the last game, they continued to give their all to that team. And I think, to me, that culture of the RSNB, right? Like, you're going to hear that a ton with him, and you heard it a ton on the defensive side. And he's adopting that a little bit to the offensive side of the ball, and kind of that mindset that, like, you just are always resilient. You're moving, you're doing all these things to help. That's got to translate to the offensive side of the ball. But I think if there's any elements there was the 24 season, some other seasons where that defense, they continued, right? They continued to fight for each other, and they continued to do what they needed to the very end. I mean, there were several games Morgan talked about the offense not living it up and the defense just continually fighting. I think that is the mindset and the approach that Morgan Scalley takes to this team, right? At the end of the day, you have to see it. You have to believe it. There's got to be a connection with this team. You know, the offensive side was clearly fractured. They didn't have a lot of great success. And I don't know that they were incredibly resilient on that side, but the defensive side was. And I think that's that culture that he's bringing into it, of saying, look, you fight to the bitter end, even if things aren't going well for you. You know, he builds that connection. There's a lot of camaraderie there. And as long as that can translate to the entirety of the team, and that team is connected, which I think this team is, there can be a lot of resilience there. There can be a lot of that fighting through it, even if this season isn't the dream season that everybody expects, where, hey, Utah's a playoff team and Morgan Scalley's first season. I think there's going to be some fight there. But until we see it on the field, I mean, it's really hard to know. But I do believe that Morgan is building something like that. And that's probably the most recent example of something of that caliber.
Josh, thanks for a few minutes. We appreciate it. We'll see you up on the hill covering the Utes all year long. And people can follow you at KSL Sports and on social media for all the latest from the U. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.
There's Josh Furlong. What is trending? The headlines are next.
It's time to get your morning started with the news you need to know. News update. This is what's trending with DJ and PK. Hashtag NFL.
Been in the playoffs a lot of times in the last, however many years I've been here now, and, just continuing to find ways to learn from it. And I think that's it's a hard pill to swallow sometimes because we haven't gotten it done, but you knock enough at the door, it's going to open at some point, and that's just what we have to keep doing, is keep knocking on that door and giving ourselves chances to be in that situation again.
That's Bills quarterback Josh Allen going full Phil Mickelson right there, PK. Keep knocking on that door. It's got to break your way. That seems more likely in golf, where you get 4 chances a year, as opposed to football, where you get 1. But nonetheless, the logic's there.
Okay.
You claim a lot of teams, from Corner Canyon to your Jersey roots and New York teams. How about Jackson Dart, Giants quarterback, former Corner Canyon guy, causing a dust-up in training camp? Scored a touchdown, running for a TV, tossed the football at the helmet of one of his teammates. John Harbaugh didn't like it, backed him up 15 yards for a PAT, said it would have been taunting.
I do not claim the Giants.
They're on their own, huh? Right there in the Meadowlands in your state.
I have no NFL team. I've got 2 NFL teams. I mean, the Jets train about 5 minutes where I grew up. But no, I have no NFL team. But, I think that Harbaugh is trying to make sure that Jackson Dart is the epitome of a leader. Well, Riley and I had a big discussion on whether Jackson Dart will go out of bounds or go down. And, they're so competitive and blah, blah, blah. Well, but if you want to be a leader, you have to be a smart competitor, and putting yourself at risk is not smart. I don't care how tough you are. There's a line where tough then becomes stupid. It sounds good to be tough. Oh, he'll run through a wall, man. I mean, it cut off his digits. He'll keep playing. That's all well and good. But if it's at the expense of you being available to play, that's stupidity. And I think Jackson Dart understands that and knows that. and he is emerging leader anyway. I don't think he's there yet, but has the opportunity to be there, and I think that he will play in the appropriate manner, and he will play smart. You don't have to keep proving your toughness over and over at the expense of injury.
That is a true story. I just can't 100% buy in that he's going to be avoiding those big hits. He seems to relish them. He's taken a lot of them. He's a young guy. He's a year older, and he'll have a new coach in his ear, a guy who's coached a running quarterback. Maybe all of that will help. But until I see it, it's a little hard to believe it's going to happen. The Arizona Cardinals are going to start Carson Beck at quarterback in the Hall of Fame game tomorrow versus Carolina. Jacoby Brissett is currently penciled in as the starter, expecting to see him week 1 of the regular season. But it doesn't feel like it's completely locked up. If somebody was on fire, it could change pretty quickly there, right? With Kyler Murray out in Minnesota now, anything could happen, even though it looks like Brissett right now.
Well, I don't know about anything. I would say that those two are one or the other. So I think Carson Beck, his time will come. You know what you're going to get from Brissett at this point.
Injury news, guys healing up for injury, dominating the NFL news as the camps are picking up speed. Atlanta Falcons fear the second-year defensive end Jalen Walker tore his ACL. He was a first-round pick a year ago, expected to be a premier pass rush threat. He had 5.5 sacks as a rookie. They were looking for him to up that number, and now fear of the torn ACL. The year could be lost before it gets going here. Packers defensive end Micah Parsons, coming off an ACL tear last year, said he believes it's realistic he could return to play and face the Cowboys, his old team, Week 6. The TV networks would appreciate it if he would do that, and they could hype that up. Not that Packers-Cowboys would need a lot of hype. You think that would probably be a marquee game. The Bears make all-pro offensive tackle Darnell Wright the highest-paid right tackle in the NFL. 4 years, $116 million. $93 guaranteed for the 24-year-old. Hit it big, and he did. Philadelphia Eagles defensive end A.J. Epenesa said that he's excited to be out of a weird situation with the Cleveland Browns. I don't want to go back and talk on that. I'll just leave that in the past and be happy I'm not a Brown and that I am an Eagle. Epenesa signed with Philly as a free agent in the offseason after initially agreeing to sign with Cleveland, but then opting to not sign him after undergoing a physical. Never mind, we don't want to do it. And he's on to Philly. DJ and PK.
Hashtag college football.
BYU number 15, Utah number 21 in the USA Today Coaches Preseason Poll. We'll get to this coming up. They get a fair enough shake, PK? Good enough? I mean, given that Indiana was down there in the last 10 teams that were ranked, they weren't in the top 15. I think they're down around 19 or 20 in the media poll and coaches poll a year ago. Good enough? You're on the radar. People will be checking you out. Just win, baby.
Everything you want is ahead of you, right in front of you. Each week, take them one at a time, though.
Pac-12 and Mountain West conferences have finalized their settlement over poaching and exit fees. More details about the money, money, how much money, what exchanged hands, not disclosed by either conference yesterday. I assume that Freedom of Information Act will catch up with that info, and it'll be out shortly. Indiana Hoosiers got one of their defensive stars from last year's national championship team back as defensive lineman Stephen Daly will return for a 5th year after the legal injunction ruling in Colorado last year opened for the door for the class of 2022 athletes like Daly to return for a 5th year. He had 19.5 tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks, impact guy there defensively, and now as a 2022 guy, he gets another year of eligibility. DJ and PK.
Hashtag Major League Baseball.
Dansby drives one in the air. Deep left center. Get out the tape measure. Long gone. Ball game tied 1-1. Dansby Swanson with a long home run to left center.
Swinging a ground ball right side. Chaparro dives, can't get it. It's a base hit down the line. Turner is home to score. Harper's headed to third. Arise is headed to second. And Luis Arise make a debut. He's 2 for 2 with 2 runs batted in, and it's 2-0 Phillies.
Breaking ball swung on and a high fly ball. Deep left field. Going back going back. A home run for George Lombard Jr. And the parents are going nuts, and so's everybody in the ballpark. 2-0 Yankees.
Highlights around Major League Baseball. You heard Luis Ariz making an immediate impact in Philadelphia. 2 for 4, drives in 2 runs, scores a third, and Philly shuts out Washington 5-0. Payday for that trade from the Giants right out of the gate, PK.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it's for the Giants, though. I think it's for the Phillies.
It's the Phillies trade with the Giants, yes. Tariq Skubal, no immediate payday there. Assume that it'll pay off down the line, but he makes his debut after getting dealt to the Dodgers, and the Cubs beat him 5-1. He gave up 2 runs in 6 innings, so it's a good start right there, but they give us more out of the bullpen. They really don't hit much, and the Dodgers lose their 5th straight game. Three of your 6 teams sitting in playoff spots right now. Dodgers, Phillies, Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks did lose the Padres 9-4, but they're still sitting in the 3rd wild card spot, and the Phillies in the 2nd one. So, Yankees top prospect George Lombard Jr. hit a home run in his debut for the club, and had his brother go yard on the same night. His brother Jacob is making his debut in single A ball in Jupiter, Florida. So, a good night for the family.
Yeah, that's cool. And the dad was a coach, what's it, with Cleveland or something, and he took the night off to be there.
Yankees needed that. Got a solo homer from him. They only got 5 hits in the game, but they beat the Cardinals 2-0. 4 Yankee pitchers combining for the shutout game.
Lombard Sr. is with the Tigers, the bench coach.
Bees lose their series opener to Oklahoma City. They've dropped 8 in a row now. They get beat 10-6. Same 2 teams tonight, 6:35. Tony Parks is on the air at 6:20 here on The Zone. DJ and PK.
Hashtag RSL.
Real Salt Lake ties the game up on a goal in the 16th minute, 1-1. It looked like it'd be a wide-open, high-scoring affair when Pablo Ruiz scored, and yet there were no more goals. It went to penalties, and they got beat 6-5 by Tigres, so they take just 1 point. Still possible they could advance in the League's Cup, but last year you needed 7 points to win on a tiebreaker. A couple of teams advanced, and another team on 7 didn't advance. So with that as the guide, it seems like the odds of them advancing pretty difficult right now. Gozo did not play in the game. He was taken out of the starting lineup. He wasn't in the 20. Precautionary because he's expected to be moved to Crystal Palace in England. Transfer fee of about $15 million. You can't even go out and wreck a knee or an ankle or something and ruin the deal. So we'll see if that gets finalized here in the next day or two. The 19-year-old from Eagle Mountain has said he wants to go to Europe. Here's a big opportunity. The team will look very different without him. We'll see how they piece everything together. He's been a big part of the attack, and it has looked different these last 2 games without him, to be sure. RSL will be back in action Saturday in League's Cup. All right, that's what's trending. It's brought to you by Shamrock Plumbing. There's no job too big or too small. Get the personal touch with Shamrock Plumbing. It's a Win Tickets Wednesday. We got tickets to see the Black Crows at Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater August 13th. We'll give those tickets away coming up in the 8 o'clock hour. In the 9 o'clock hour, Jay Drew will join us, BYU football beat writer for the Deseret News. It is opening day for the Cougars. Their first day of practice. We'll be headed down there after the show. We'll get to that coming up. Jay Drew at 9 o'clock. DJ and PK, it's 97.5 at KSL Sports Zone.
They've been doing it for a while.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
I think the Jazz want to make the playoffs this year, and they really have no motivation for not making the playoffs this year because their draft pick goes to the Memphis Grizzlies in the Jaren Jackson Jr. trade. How motivated are the Jazz actually going to feel to maximize the win total of this roster using all the assets available to them to get there? My guess is it's actually not as high as fans would think because they don't have to do anything exactly right.
The truth is they are dedicated to it. But that doesn't mean they have to do anything about it right now.
Sure.
But no, not one person in that building, if you went up to them and said, hey, is the Bosnian Beak your answer at center? Not one of them is going to say yes.
Right. Or Jackson Hayes.
Or any of that. No, they're not.
Yeah.
So, yes, they do need to address the problem, for sure. Do they need to address it right now?
I don't think so.
Absolutely not. No, why would they?
Catch Jake and Ben, afternoons from 2 to 6 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
KSL Sports Zone and Beehive Meals are honoring people that impact youth sports in our communities. Nominate the youth sports volunteer you know for the Beehive Meals Hero of the Week at KSLSports.com/contest and listen every Thursday afternoon to Jake and Ben for the winner. It's the Beehive Meals Hero of the Week. Question of the morning up on our Facebook page. BYU football starts practice today. What do you want or expect to hear? Matthew with a classic. The boys were flying around. And he also says, I want to hear him say, I have to watch the film. Would you like to estimate how many times you've heard those two quotes?
Flying around to the ball, man. That's something. I don't know that they'll need to be watching film to get an assessment of what they're looking for today. They're just looking for enthusiasm and emotion, happy to be there, excited. The season is upon you. You've done all that work with the lights off, so to speak, in January and February, the dark days and the conditioning and all. Now you have an opportunity, and it's, they go through the acclimation period. I think it's 3 or 4 days before they can be in full pads and all that stuff. So the first day is just a gratitude that you have an opportunity to play ball, and most likely at the team for the school of your choice. Most of these guys could have had other opportunities, and they chose here. So I think he's just looking for, speaking of Kalani being that he's looking for the spirit of it and the enthusiasm of it. As they progress, the film becomes more important. But I don't know that in practice here in August, in the summer training camp, that the film will be that important because of the fact that there's so many returners. I think Jay has a story reading this morning, and I'm talking to him in a couple hours, the third most returning starters in production, whatever it might be. So a lot of the stuff is set. So the film will certainly become important as the season progresses, but I think it's about execution and staying injury-free during the next 3 weeks and really 4 or 5 weeks, because they have Utah Tech, and they should be expected to beat them handily, obviously. And then we get into the second week, and at that point,
conference opener, Arizona, here we go.
Really takes shape. So it's a little bit of a different camp for BYU in that a lot of things are settled and determined. There's always competition, and there'll always be surprises. There'll always be some players that, either through injury or what have you, get an opportunity and take off. And this happens across the country, I believe. Who those players will be, we're not really sure. Because you never really know, because they get there, and a lot of these kids have the star ranking and have credentials. But let's just take Satawala for an instance. Did we know that he was not just going to be a player, he's going to be a big-time player, and he's going to be a difference maker? You're not really sure on that. I can recall the season before last, Isaiah Glasker. Who is this kid sitting in the press box in Dallas for SMU game? Who is this kid? And what was the story? And I talked to Kelly Poppinga. Oh, he had a hamstring or some form of injury the prior year where he couldn't really show because he's got size, he's got speed, agility, aggressiveness, blah, blah, blah. And he has this breakout game, at least to me, right there. I think that was the second game of the season, if I remember. And then, wow, he's been really good these last 2 years. Probably could have gone to the NFL and came back. So you have guys that you expect that are going to get opportunities, but what level are they going to settle in at? And those are two guys that I just named from the defensive perspective that settled in at star-like levels. And who's that going to be? That's what's going to be fun to watch as this season progresses for these guys, because every team has them.
You never really know. You could watch Satawala in high school, and it didn't take a genius to think he's got to be getting recruited by everybody.
Sure, yeah.
But you're right. When he steps in, it's like, is there going to be an acclimation period, an adjustment? Is he ready right away? And even in a game, I think maybe it was at Kansas, made a mistake, gave up a score, but then turned around and made a big play and got a turnover and got a pick. And so, yeah, he really did cannonball into the deep end of the pool. Yeah. Announce his presence immediately.
Iowa State with a pick six.
It was Iowa State. That's where it was. Yeah, he got beat early, and then he had the pick six later in the game.
Yeah, right. On the road against a decent team, those are huge. And we're expecting big things from him, provided, of course, he has his health. I know he's had a little bit of an injury, but they're talking about he should be ready.
Oh, we've got comments on that. Tim, I want an update on Satuala's injury. Hopefully he's fully recovered. From major injuries to quote-unquote minor. It's a minor surgery, a surgery that happens to somebody else. But a quote-unquote minor surgery where guys get stuff, I love it when they say, cleaned up.
No, that's what they're telling us.
There'll be all the questions about, who's healthy today. Those are givens on the first day. And we'll find out who's ready to go and who's still being held out for a week or two and who they're hoping to get back for the season opener. All that stuff plays out here. But Satuala's health, number one concern for Tim. Chris says, my only hope is there aren't any surprises for who is not on the roster. That's the first thing I want to know.
Okay.
Somebody not eligible. Somebody being held out. Rich says, I expect to hear how great they are, and I expect to hear how they're going to be national champs. Okay. Now you're laying it on thick, Rich.
I think there's a good chance they can do it.
Be great or be national champs?
Yes. Because if you have the second, then you'll obviously have the first.
That's true. It's easy to see them being great, getting a conference title game, win a conference title game, get in the playoffs, win a playoff game. But after winning a playoff game, isn't everything else gravy?
I don't know about that. There's no way that I can say it's easy to see them winning the conference title. No, I don't. I can't say any team.
It's not easy to win the conference title, but it's
plausible,
easy.
but it's not easy.
It's easy to see the expectations set there. I don't think anybody's setting expectations at national semifinals, title game, or champs. Some people may be setting their expectations at all those other things I listed. And you're right, it won't be easy to win those things. It'll be hard. It wasn't easy to win the Utah game and get to the conference title a year ago, but they did it and pulled it off and they got there. It wasn't easy. But I think expectations can be set for any of those four accomplishments.
Well,
and then after that.
Okay, but why would I say after that? If they are in that situation, why would I just concede defeat? There's no way I would concede defeat like you are.
I don't think they're setting expectations. You're right, they'll be recalibrated, and in that moment they will expect to win the next game, whatever that is. They'll want to win it, hope to win it, expect to win it. The expectations will be recalibrated. But right now, I expect when we go down there, we're going to hear him talk about getting to the conference title game, winning a conference championship, and qualifying for the playoffs. I think that's what, back to the original question, what do you want, expect to hear? That's what I expect to hear.
No, there's no way they're going to be talking about the conference title game on the first day of practice. That just violates every unwritten code. You could barely get him. We were down there the other day and interviewing and talking to guys. Barely get him to talk about Arizona because it's Utah Tech first, as we had with your guy Schmidt yesterday. Asking him the soccer about what do you do, because you had these other games and you got this short turnaround. You can't be talking about this other team because you got the other game. It was always a joke. Every year we would do the WAC conference call for basketball. And in those days, every game was Thursday, Saturday. Well, you got a better chance of pulling teeth without any Novocaine than
getting a coach to talk about the Saturday game.
Yeah.
I got to write something on Friday. Right. Can you give me a quote for Saturday?
They would never, ever do it. You can't. You're tempting the fates. So if I hear Kalani talk about, I'm really looking forward to see who we play in the playoff, I'll drop dead.
You don't think you'll hear a player, the goal is to win the conference title?
Well, that's always the goal. That doesn't change for any team. All 16 teams, the goal is to win the conference title. So that you can get away with that because that is every team's goal every year.
And that's why it's on my list of things I expect to hear about. And that's why they can talk about the playoff, because if you get one, obviously, then you're in.
They're not going to be talking about even that. But if they should get there and win a game, then I'm not going to automatically eliminate them from the second round, advancing, whatever they call it. That means you're really good.
Any other cliches that you used to on the opening day of practice? You've done a lot of opening days of practice.
Yeah, man, the strength coach really came through over the winter. These guys are in great shape, man. They're looking physically good. They can run. They can throw the ball over the mountain and all that stuff. Yeah, man, you can tell they really put the time in the weight room over the winter and the conditioning, and whoever the coaches are, they just did a phenomenal job.
We did get that Monday up at the U. We did. That's a time-worn winner right there.
Yes.
The next time you hear strength and conditioning staff, they didn't really get after it.
Are they doing eating pizza every day?
Yeah, I know. It's like we get some guys who are a little doughy around the middle.
Yeah, that's what they're going to tell you, that they've had a great opportunity to get themselves. We're bigger, faster, stronger. And for me, every time when I played high school ball and I reported for camp, I was smaller, weaker, and slower. That was my problem. I got worse.
Skinny Kinahan, he's here again.
I had nobody else, so I made the team.
We need bodies. Need guys to practice against.
Right. Process of elimination. Okay, you made it. You don't suck as bad as the other guy.
I expect we're going to hear about the wide receiver group. Who's it going to be? And the answer will be we have a bunch of good guys, and we want someone to expect, but we're going to be spreading the ball around, and there's several guys who contribute. And I expect we'll hear a lot about that.
Well, that was always Kyle's thing with rushing and receiving. If you didn't have a bona fide proven product, well, if I get 700 or 800 yards from three guys, yeah, but you never do.
Remember that time that quarterback threw for 3,500 yards?
It just doesn't normally work that way. And sometimes it does. You know, more so at the service academies when they're running it 70 times a game. and you got to, the quarterback is going to have to be good, and then there's going to be a running back or two because they get so many opportunities, and that's their version of the big play.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're looking to take, unless it's a dive, they're looking to take everything as far as they can go. And their big plays come through that. So the rest of them, I like what Robert and I said yesterday. I've always enjoyed listening to him. I know some other folks don't like him, but I've always liked him, is that he's talking about in today's...
Magic happens.
Magic happens.
Wrong one.
Yeah.
No, that was good, Jake, to have the
well, you
history.
had to set it, and then,
yes, exactly.
No,
the history of magic
Right.
happens through the ages. That was good.
Right.
You did not hit the wrong one.
Magic.
You instinctively understood context. That's what happened there.
I've always thought you have to listen to what he says. And so they had their media day in Logan yesterday, and I went through to get myself up to speed of what's going on up there and what the folks have to say, particularly him because he's new. Took a year off, I think, if not two.
That hit him hard. He felt that time off.
Yeah.
He's happy to be back at it.
He's 67, 68, but good for him if he wants to do it.
He was living out in the Bay Area because his son is coaching out there, and when he got the job at Utah State, it sounds like, I lost my babysitter.
Well, he has that relationship with Bronco. Has been there, came back and followed him, and then followed him again, obviously. And he's talking about today's game. The cliche is that they tell you you've got to use the run to set up the pass.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, no, that's done. No, you've got to spread them out. You have to, there's nothing you do to set up something else. This is not a pitcher, I'll nibble here, and then I'll come back over there, and that type. Use all sides of the plate and all that to set up a hitter. He's talking about you have to be diversified and be really good at all aspects and spread them out so then you can use all your weapons, and one doesn't set up the other in the way the game is played today. So that's something that, I think it's very important, and I liked what he was talking about, and how it relates to BYU with their receivers, they're going to have guys. If they do not have guys that come through in the manner that they did last year, then I don't care how much experience Bachmeier has, how much experience the offensive line has. You've got to be able to do it, and they've got to be able to get the ball down the field. Yeah, it looks like on paper they should be fine running the ball. But at the same time, L.J. Martin has the big season because you got Kingston and Roberts over here having really good seasons. But we always hear about L.J., and L.J. should get all the credit for what he did, but that plays right into what Anai's talking about. You had big-time receivers making big-time plays, and their statistics at the end of the season reflected it, and so did LJ's. Well, if they don't have that, that may hamper the running game big time.
I think the only thing I disagree with is the may. I think it will. I think that theory about spread them out, make them defend every yard of the field from one sideline all the way to the other, and from the line of scrimmage 20, 30, 40, 50 yards downfield, you got to make them defend everywhere. Spread them out. And then you get your playmakers into space, and they can make big plays. Because one guy misses a tackle, and the second and third guy can't rally the ball that fast. They're too far away.
And who's it going to be? We know the names, but they're just right now. They're just names.
Yeah.
Who's it going to be? Or will it be?
Who's the 60-catch, 800-yard guy?
Will they turn into what Utah had become the last several years, where we're just going to go to the tight ends and run the ball, and that's how we're going to do it.
Will get their occasional catch here or there, but whatever.
But
the tight end's
not
the guy
what you want.
No. It makes it hard under that scenario. It makes it hard to spread them out sideline to sideline and 50 yards downfield. Spread them out, make them. Who's the deep threat? You got to make them defend the whole field and get those guys away from the line of scrimmage. Now the linebackers are in space, and maybe guys can make bigger plays.
Yeah, so that's what I want to see.
Yeah, beat one guy, and you got space to run.
And right now, you're not going to see it in day one. It's going to be more of a talk, more of a thought process. What do they think? And they're going to put the positive spin on it, for sure.
That's another quote we're going to hear. Well, it's hard to know. We don't even have the pads on.
Yeah, but the guys that they have had the pads on in the spring. So, and you'll also hear, well, the player run practices, they were really good. They got a lot done.
They won't call them player run practices. PRPs, guys. Come on.
I know, but we're...
Know your abbreviations.
We're ballers, but we got listeners, especially the ladies. We want to explain that to them. Hey, don't blame me, ladies. They have every coach has a thing where they explain football to the ladies during the camp. So don't blame me.
Get to your chalkboard, your whiteboard sessions.
And then they start the chalkboard, and then they go out on the field and teach them the game. So don't blame me, ladies. The coaches do it.
It's BRPs now. It'll be OTAs like the NFL one day.
Because I'm sure DB knows football.
Try next year.
There's a lot of DBs out there who know football.
No doubt.
She knows basketball. DB's the greatest.
Fact.
I'm a girl dad.
Yay!
Look
you
at
don't
me.
Really sound like a Debbie.
Well, I've been one for a long time.
Debbie knew football, and Debbie knows. If Debbie's still alive, and I pray to, the Almighty that she still is, she knows football and basketball. It was a comprehensive sports fan, and you mock her. And you question her. Rude, and unbecoming of the most popular sportscaster in this community.
Don't
blame it on somebody else.
It was quite a disaster.
Yeah, you want to blame it on the old producer because you thought, well, I seen the same thing. It was on my screen, and I didn't question her gender.
That technology was so flawed, we don't even use it anymore.
Again, now he blames, but I had the same technology, and I knew she was a woman.
Or you at least had the good sense not to ask.
I knew. I've seen right through it.
I just have gender identification.
Is it XX or XY? That's a big thing these days, but I never know which one's which.
Got to pay attention
to science into that territory.
Science classes at Thunderbird High, man. You got to stay dialed in there to biology 2 or whatever that class was.
No, I didn't. I just needed a C.
Got your C, got eligible to play third base, and called it good. And that's why you're confused all these years later.
Wait, I'm confused?
Yes, you're confused.
You sat in the front row because mom and dad required it and you were a nerd, and you still screwed it up.
I can tell you where I didn't sit then, and even in a room today, I will go sit in the back of the room.
Oh, that's because you're so popular and you don't want to just dominate and take all the oxygen in the room. You're so freaking humble.
Get in, get out.
And Wang.
Get in, get out, have very little to say. You've actually complimented me on meetings. There's some people who've been asking questions and making comments. You sit there, don't talk, listen, and get that meeting over with. Let's go. And the back is the best place to be quiet, say nothing, and not be noticed.
Let's go out and talk to some of the managers here.
Not a meeting. That's one-on-one.
DJ, he never offers an opinion.
Nope. One came in searching for one yesterday. That was surprising. All right, anything else you want to hear today? Anything else you expect to hear today?
Yes, all practices throughout the rest of the season will be open. Come in anytime you want.
Things you are not going to hear today. Didn't hear them last year, won't hear them next year.
I used to have to go, this is the old days, man, when we used typewriters back in the 90s.
Look out.
Or in the 2000s when it would have been some 90s and then obviously into the 2000s because I didn't stop being a beat writer until 2007. So that's not that long ago. But when they had the two-a-days in Provo and I was covering BYU, that it would be pointless to come home and drive back. And you had to go because you just were always afraid of missing something.
Mm-hmm.
Even if nothing happened, you had to be there. So those I used to hate. The first week was okay because it was fresh. And you can have access and you can do some stuff.
And then you're through all of your off-season questions and stories and you're stuck because nothing has happened.
And you have to go there and you'd have to be there for the entire practice. So I used to go and work out. I'd use their facilities and either run, lift, whatever. And then I'd go shower in the Smith Fieldhouse and then be ready for the afternoon one. And you felt like if you weren't there, you just knew something big was going to happen.
And occasionally it did. And I remember being there for one of those, not that we had to be there as much as B writers had to be there, but we were there for one of those, and a guy broke his leg.
And
the
that's
season
usually
was
what
over.
it is. It's an injury.
Yeah.
There's really not, because there's not going to be anything in practice on one singular practice. He's our guy. We're going with him at any position. It's an accumulation. Yeah. And they do film everything. They've got film. You'll see them filming from multiple angles, and they do go and rehash and look over and study it up and down, inside out.
Well, and show it to kids and say, hey, here's what you did and here's what you need to do.
And they notice every little thing. The second you step on the practice field is recorded, and your effort and your production and all that stuff. So they know everything, that's for sure. But it's from the media standpoint now, it's not even close to what it was, which is good and bad, I guess. And I get why they do it though, because the media is such a huge umbrella now. And you don't know who's doing what and blah, blah, blah. And plus, if one does it, they all got to follow.
There's that, but there are specific stories along the way, and you've heard the one about Lavelle, and they were playing Washington in opener, and someone came and gave him plays because they'd been in a Washington practice and diagrammed a bunch of stuff, and he was horrified and sent him, I think it was Neuheisel, and sent him and said, hey, sorry about this. You ought to know somebody's watching your practice, and they gave me this. I don't want to know it. Here it is back.
Yeah, I get it.
And now with phones, and we've been through Spygate with the Patriots and all that kind of stuff, so...
You're sort of backed up against the wall.
More fences, more windscreens, less access.
Yeah, so be it. And ultimately, I think it's the fan who loses a little bit in the short term. But come Saturdays, we get to see it all anyway. I mean, it was fun to watch them do trick plays in practice and know they were coming.
Yeah.
Because you saw them and you knew.
Or be disappointed you didn't get to see him because it was such a fun play and it was so cool. And then the game didn't call for it.
You may see it later on.
Yeah.
And now you don't. Now it's going to be a surprise because they don't let you in, and if they do let you in, it's just sort of watered down and all that type of stuff. So, and I used to like the give and take. I like the way as the thing wore on that the players, the coaches would try to frustrate the players in that manner.
The quarterback was running and the play is blown dead and he's complaining like, no way.
And then the scrum or the, not fisticuffs, I don't know what I'm looking for.
But guys
tussling.
They start to fight, but it's more of a tussle and they're grabbing jerseys and they're hollering. And other guys come in to pull them apart, except other guys want a piece of them. And there's multiple whistles blowing. Knock it off, guys.
Right. And tempers. It gets hot and so forth.
And that's why in a couple of weeks we'll hear the cliche, we're tired of hitting each other. It's time to hit somebody else. But we won't hear that today. That one's still a couple
too
weeks
early,
off.
way too early. We got at least a couple of weeks.
Pace yourself.
And then do they go to the movie? Do they raft the Provo River? What do they go to the water park? What do they do?
They went to the water park
surprise
yesterday.
Yeah, but that hasn't started yet. When you come out to practice, okay, boys, we're going to do the slip and slide. That was always a favorite of BYU's, and see the big uglies doing the slip and slide, and you get all fired up, and maybe a coach or two would do it. Those were good times.
All right, DJ and PK, BYU football practice starts today. We'll be down there. We'll be telling you all about it tomorrow. Coming up 8 o'clock, the coaches poll is out. We will get into that. 4 Big 12 teams ranked, including the 2 locals. That's all on the way. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
3, 2, 1. This is Scotty G and Coach Tim LeCote.
For Utah, it's offense and maybe defensive line, but primarily the offensive line. And so I'm like, okay, maybe I got to dig a little deeper here. But honestly, the more I kept looking at it, the more I kept thinking, it really comes down to those 2 position groups. Can Utah have offensive linemen that can step up?
You know, I think the big question mark outside of the offensive line for Utah nationally is Morgan Scalley.
Yeah.
But, nobody even talks about that around here because I think everybody has a real comfort factor with the way things looked in that bowl game, honestly. But the bottom line was they were sharp. They took advantage of opportunity more so than maybe a Whittingham team would. It felt like the guys were loose and ready to ball. That's like a sign. And then you hear all the stuff from the guys, how happy they are.
Catch Scotty G and Coach weekdays from 10 to 2. Presented by Mountain Land Supply on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Join Scotty G and the coach Friday, 10 to 2, RGS Exteriors, 4235 Farm Road in West Jordan. Preseason poll is out, and PK, there are 4 teams from the Big 12 in the top 25. We're going to get to that in the next segment. You were talking a year ago that this could be the year of the quarterback in the Big 12. And I'm looking at the rankings here, and it's just such a quarterback-driven sport. When I see the national rankings of the top 25 quarterbacks, what do I see? I see the Utes, I see the Cougars, I see Houston, I see Oklahoma State. When I see the rankings, I see 3 of those 4 teams. Do you think it's the year of quarterback in the league? How many of these people do you completely believe in or think you want to believe in, but you got to see a little more because it's a new face in a new place or, another year of experience, take a step forward, that kind of stuff. How much can you circle back to that take you had a year ago? It's the year of the quarterback in the Big 12.
Well, I think when we look at the year of the quarterback, we talk about NFL prospects too. And so I think you can look a little differently this year, how many NFL prospects are in there. It's like Noah Fafita, who I think is really good. The problem is he's 5'10".
Mm-hmm.
So, but that has no bearing on this season. So I think we look at that and see, who's a big shot to play in the NFL and go from there. This year, I think there's some very good quarterbacks that may not be NFL caliber, but it doesn't really matter.
They're good college quarterbacks.
Yeah.
The pros is a discussion.
I have serious doubts that Dan Beer can play quarterback in the NFL.
You go to the measurables, and he and Fafita aren't big enough.
But I saw a thing that listed fantasy. I guess you can play fantasy college. I'm not into the fantasy sports anymore. Used to be. Don't bother with it now. And in the country, Dan Beer was listed number 3, which I get that because he can do a lot of different things. And so he can accumulate fantasy points in a lot of different ways, more so than others. But quarterback is a fickle, funny position. And who's good? Who's going to emerge? Dillingham has been able to develop quarterbacks for whatever reason. Does he have another one? So right now, whoever that may be is not getting the run. But when we get to November, maybe he's done it again. I don't think going into 2 years ago at this point, Sam Levitt was getting much run. Now he's listed in many places as a top 5 quarterback. And I know a lot of people in Tempe hope he fails miserably. I understand that. Because he gets burned by that, and you take it personal, no doubt about it. So there will be some surprises, and even in this conference. But I think that's how you rate preseason rankings. It's what they have coming back and what has that done, and provided, and also now with the transfers. But even with the transfers, what have they done? So we all knew that Bailey at Texas Tech was going to be all that because he had a track record, and he did do all that, right? And then he goes high in the draft, right? No big surprise. So you can have some unknowns with the transfers, but I think the transfer thing now has become such a staple of programs that it isn't necessarily unknown. In fact, it's quite known. When Mateer goes from Washington State to Oklahoma as the quarterback, and he brings his head coach with him, okay, or his quarterback coach, I should say. All right, that is something that we're expecting production immediately. It's not an unknown, so we're beyond that, and that's how you rank them. But there's going to be teams that don't have returning quarterbacks that are going to kick butt and be very good, but they don't deserve right now to be in the ranking position. So the way I look at preseason rankings is that because what have you earned in the prior season to earn that ranking? And it may or may not
translate.
Yeah.
Pay off.
Or it pays off, but not as much because you got somebody else here who does a lot better. That's the fun part of it. That's what I love so far about the Big 12 is that we've had surprises, and it's not, well, we know we got to go through all this September, all this October,
and then
part of November, but we already know.
And Ohio State and Michigan will play at the end.
Yeah, we already know how it's going to end. We don't know how it's going to end, but we know which teams are going to be there. And in the Big 12, maybe Texas Tech, that they do then become that team that is everybody's shooting for, and it's going to be money driven. But hey, they're like the Dodgers. Tech is not doing anything that isn't allowable. That's why the Texas Tech people and the Dodgers, like we had Larry the Laker on a few weeks ago. Well, the Dodgers, they only took Freeman because the Braves made the decision to get Matt Olson. Instead of saying, yeah, we got tons of money and we spend it and we bought our team. What are you going to do about it? That's when you know they get defensive about it. Just say, yeah, we got Cody Campbell and Sellers, the two big boosters over here, and they pay these dudes millions. Isn't it great?
These are the best of times. I would love to be able to say that about my team. And actually, I was pretty close to saying it a few years ago. These are the best of times.
Yeah, but that was
Padres were spending
more
money.
Oh, okay. You're talking. I thought
I'm talking the Padres were spending money.
Well, I think they still are.
This is cool. They pared it back a little. I mean, they still have big payroll guys. Yeah.
Why apologize for it? And we'll see if Tech dominates the next 2 to 3 years. Then they're likely going to continue to dominate. But so far, we've had surprises every year, and that's been fun to see. Trying to figure it out. Anytime you get a surprise party, if you got a birthday party planned for you, okay, it's cool. But if it's a surprise party and you had no idea.
It was fun. I had one of those once.
Yeah.
Hit a year with a 0 in it, and people pulled off a surprise.
I did that to my wife last year. I want no party. I want no party. She was stepping aside from working. I want no party up here. Okay. Well, we went to Arizona and I did it there.
Different jurisdictions. So
yeah.
Yeah, right.
Had no clue.
Sheriff can't cross state lines.
and we got it on film, too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we went and played golf, and it was at
her friend Jill's, of course.
Oh, that's
and
a surprise.
My daughter was there, and they set it all up. And so I knew going in, and Jill's husband and son, they had 2 lazy boys, and they're sitting there on a Saturday afternoon, which they would never do, about 4 or 5 o'clock, just watching sports, right? They deserved awards, academies, right? And everybody's in the other room, and she can't see it, but walks in, hey, how's golf?
And these aren't sit around and watch TV kind of people.
No.
They're up and Adam kind of people, right? They got a project. They're out golfing. They're doing whatever.
Oh, yeah. And they're both just sitting there, just kind of casual. Hey, how'd it go today? Yeah. Where'd you play? Yeah. No clue. And we're like 2 seconds away from yeah. And there was an old college roommate that she hadn't seen in years. I mean, years. And that week, I had told her, hey, what about who did you room with when you're at ASU? Oh, it was Kay something or other. Yeah, when's the last time you see her? Oh, I went to visit her in Minnesota. That's where she was from one time. And I'm asking her all these questions as we're walking a dog, knowing that in 3 days she's going to see her. But she has no clue. Why the heck is this doofus asking me about somebody who I haven't seen for 30 years?
Whatever happened to so-and-so? Because I was on the phone with her a couple days ago.
And I had it set up. Okay, I'll be there.
Here's the time. Here's the address. Let's do it. Yeah.
So surprises, not negative, but they're usually good, and that's what the Big 12 provides. And as a fan, I find that fun.
And the surprises this year, maybe Baylor. They got it together.
Well, I think in this conference you go from like teams 5 and below.
DJ Lagway gets it together.
Maybe Colorado pulls it together.
Drew Mestemaker is awesome.
Iowa
NFL's
State
drooling.
lost everybody.
But maybe they stole everybody from Wazoo and now they're good?
Yeah. We'll find out.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. All right, the coaches' top 25 is out. 4 Big 12 teams, including the locals. We'll get to that next. Stay with us. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. The top 25 coaches preseason poll is out. For whatever that's worth, it's fun. Is it accurate? But it's fun. 4 teams from the Big 12 in the top 25. BYU is at 15. Utah is at 21. Of course, Texas Tech is number 12. They're the highest seeded team. And then Houston slides in at 24. And other receiving votes are other teams. TCU is just outside the top 25. Arizona not very far outside the top 25 either. So there's some other teams. Oklahoma State actually got some votes too. So there's some other teams here that, if they play well, could pick up speed pretty quickly. Is 4 too much, too little, just right, or this is so meaningless you don't really care?
I think it has meaning. I don't think it's meaningless.
Nothing matters until the committee comes out with their stuff, but the committee stuff doesn't ever seem to be that far away from the coaches and media polls.
Well, I think for BYU, it establishes that you are a good program, and recruiting is selling. It's perception. And so that it's established expectation. And I'm going to go there because they're a good program. And they prove it all the time. And you have to prove it, but, it puts it out there. And then, so like if BYU say they have a bad season and somebody goes down or whatnot, okay, well, yeah, it's the same thing that we did with the Utes when they had their couple of subpar seasons, one in which they won 8 games, which isn't bad, but then the next season. And so you want to keep that momentum going. And, if you are not ranked and you're not on the radar at all and you have a 5-7 season, it's because you suck. So, yeah, you can sell these things. You're looking for every little bit to sell. And now you have to sell them to your boosters and you have to sell them to the donors and all those things. So everything matters. And you can blow it off, and sure, the one at the end is more important, but they all matter. And it establish the expectation for the team. They believe they're good. Half the battle is believing. And it's harder to come from nowhere and rise up.
Wade says polls mean little for about the first month. And if the storyline is the season and the playoffs, yes, I get your point. And I think what you just said, PK, has to be underscored. Put the exclamation point on it. You never stop fundraising. Ever. Multiple people working on that year-round. In the case of you, creating a company to work on it year-round. So they're going to be out pitching every day of every week. And now they got something to talk about.
Yes.
And they've got to raise money today. They got to raise money next week. It never stops. We had Robbie Bosco used to do it. He doesn't anymore. But the quarterback turned assistant coach turned fundraiser.
That's President Bosco to you.
Yeah, right? He was telling us on the air. He said, yeah, you bring in a big donation, and it's back slaps and high fives. And you know what you got to do tomorrow? You got to go meet with somebody, golf with somebody, and do it again.
Well, they just sent out an email from Utah State. They hired a lady, and it was right in there. Her job is NIL. So, yeah, all these things matter. The players will and the coaches will downplay it. I get it. That's standard. It doesn't mean nothing. Blah, 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 blah. Well, yeah, but, I mean, to the perception of the program, it matters. And it's better to stay in the ranking all year, all season.
Well, under the theory of selling, the Sports Information will be, they're the one of three schools that's been ranked every week in the last 3 years, or whatever streak or stat they can come up with. It's something else to sell.
And recruiting is ongoing, especially now with the earlier signing period. That the February thing is leftovers now. Used to be the big thing, and you had a big parade basically, but that is, they don't have big announcements now because it's usually you're preparing for something in December.
Yeah. But there's all of that.
Kids commit.
That's all happening, but then you've also got the transfer portal, and we've heard multiple coaches complaining about tampering during the season. So, yeah, even if it's during the season, it's an early poll and it's going to change in a couple weeks. If this is when you're going through some third party or doing whatever stuff you do to get a hold of people, well, where you're ranked then gives you something to sell then. Hey, we're 5-0 and we're ranked 8th, and you ought to think about playing here next year.
Plus, I think it's a show of respect for Utah that they're ranked at all. With all the changes.
With all the change, yeah.
Yeah.
By all the change, Kyle, and Kyle. He was the face and voice of the program for a couple of decades, and he's gone. And we've seen plenty of these coaching changes where it's hard.
Losing all 5 offensive linemen.
Yeah.
Losing
the
other
offensive
players,
coordinator.
Losing your sack specialist. Using a strong defensive back who played some receiver and did a lot of different things for you. That's gone. He's gone, obviously. So I think that's a sign of respect.
Lloyd says, I'm a Utah man, but with a new coach, don't rank us till we start winning. BYU sounds about right, but nothing means anything until the end of the season.
Well, it means more at the end of the season. But as we just articulated, I think it does matter.
And when you start behind or off the radar or whatever, then you got to hop teams, and you can't hop teams just based on your winning. You usually hop teams based on them losing also. So it is a little easier if you start a little higher. It's a simpler deal.
Yeah.
And it's not that you can't jump up, and Indiana just did it last year. So certainly it can be done. But
but they were in the playoff the year before.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that what you're trying to do is make sure as a baseline you get an at-large berth. Obviously, if you win it all, you don't have to worry about any of that. But what you're trying to do is to position yourself to get an at-large berth if you don't win that game. And then here in a short order, not now, obviously, but in the next X amount of seasons, we're going to do away with the conference title games, and they're all going to be some form of at-large. See what kind of system they
cook up.
They create on that, and maybe
maybe conference winners then become the automatic bids, whoever that might be, at least with the Power Four, as far as that goes. I can see them doing that, and that would make sense, because what you don't want is that the regular season becomes so devalued. You've got to have some kind of incentive.
There's got to be some juice.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're the NBA playing Game 12 and everybody's watching football figuring, we'll figure you out later. It doesn't really matter.
Right. And, they can come up with a system. I don't know that necessarily you would have the top 4 seeds, but you're guaranteed a home game or 2 home games or whatever they do if you win your conference. There's got to be something for playing a 9-game season and be the last team standing. Because if there isn't, what's the point?
What are we doing here?
Then don't even have conferences for that matter. Just whatever.
Okay, but see that, and that will get said, so I don't totally dismiss it. I just can't buy it because there was a time when we were really young, either getting started in the business or we were still in school and we were fans, where most of the Eastern teams were independent. And there was no league there. And now you get decades later, and football's not as big a deal there, and those teams aren't as good. And I just think a conference would have benefited them. It would have benefited their fan bases. It would have benefited their programs.
I know. I mean, I'm just going an extreme example. But there's got to be weight in the season. It has to mean something rather than just look. I can recall there's a few years back, the U of A's playing, they're hosting ASU. And, they have the far better program, right? Well, Hurley had a couple of decent teams, and this was one year. And it was towards the latter part of the season, and the Devils are down by 2, and the Cats they could have missed a free throw, and then in the scramble the time runs out, right? Well, they don't, and they make the free throw so they can inbound it, and they're now up by 2, and they throw the ball to the kid in front of the U of A bench, and the kid, I don't remember who he was, he chucks it, and it goes in.
I remember that.
Right.
Yeah.
And the coaches on the U of A start arguing with each other. You could see it, right? Because the shot maker is right in front of their bench to begin with, and you could hear him, that's why I told you. And I'm thinking, who cares? It doesn't matter. You're going to the tournament. Your season is going to be determined on what you do going. They lost that game, but it was a fun moment, and they dogpile, blah, blah, blah. But really, what did it matter? It didn't matter.
In a weird way, good coaches, and Majerus would have done this. It's like, now I got something to hold over him. Because Arizona's always really good.
Right. And they were going to go.
He's right. It's kind of like, guys, here's a late game situation, missed it up. And Majerus was the king of always time and score. What's the situation?
A lot of it was coaching.
Yeah.
They should have intentionally missed a free throw, because then, then there's a scramble with a bunch of 7-footers, and you don't get a clean shot out, and the kid chucks it in.
And that's the last moment.
55 feet.
They can absolutely rehash that and second guess themselves. But the beauty or problem with basketball is that means there's like 40 possessions you need to go over.
Yeah. And so I don't want to see that. I remember watching that game thinking.
But you don't want that in football, where you have some dramatic game the first Saturday in November, and you're just like, so what?
Right.
It's essentially an exhibition.
Right.
Both these teams are going.
Right.
Which is a risk in the Big 12 or in the Big 10 when you see Ohio State and Indiana and Oregon. I'm like, do you really think they're going to miss the playoffs? Is Ohio State going to miss the playoffs?
We had that in the conference title game. I can recall being down there. The Big 12 game was in the morning, and there was a Chili's right next to me within walking distance of my hotel, and I had it all planned out. I was going to order a ton of junk food and sit on that bed, not worry if the crumbs got on the bed, because I'm in a hotel, and I was going to watch that game, Indiana versus Ohio State. There's nothing else for me to do. I'm alone. And root my butt off for Indiana. But then I'm also thinking, it really doesn't matter.
They're both going to the playoffs.
Yeah.
I watched that. I was at work, and I watched it with the exact same.
Whereas the game this morning, everything was on the line.
Yeah.
Certainly for BYU.
Winning you're in, losing you're out.
Yeah.
As opposed to Ohio State and Indiana, you get a trophy, and then you go home, and then you get ready for your playoff game.
But they got to put some weight in, if they do away with the conference title games, they got to put some weight into the regular season. And if you don't, then make sure that you're ranked as high as you could possibly be and stay in the ranking. BYU has an opportunity to stay in the ranking. And really, they should be ranked where they are ranked right now. And can they stay in the rest of the year?
They're essentially ranked right now where they've finished the last couple of years. And that goes back to your earlier point about who do you have back? Well, they got their coach. They got one of their two coordinators. They got the quarterback, right? They got to replace Jay Hill. So he's gone. So we haven't ranked them this high before, but this is where we finish, where they finished the last couple of years, and they're double digits for the last 6, so we're going to park them about 15.
Yeah, and then also, too, if you start and stumble, you have a better chance to stay and be on the minds of that playoff committee when they start meeting. Because they're going to look at that. And they can say they're not, but that's bullcrap. They are. So they're going to check that out. So you want that for BYU. If I would think that if they go into November, about the time we start getting the playoff ranking, if they have 2 losses, they're out. They have 1, they're in.
Basically, what you just described was Miami. They started last year at 10. They did have some stumbles. They lost to Louisville and SMU. They did have the marquee win early against Notre Dame to kind of justify, hey, we're number 10. Yeah, and look what we did. Notre Dame was actually ranked in front of them, so they were 6, I think, when they beat them. But there was a whole bunch of who cares games down the stretch. I mean, you got to win them because if you lose them, you get penalized, but you don't really get much for winning them. But because they started in a good spot, and they had a nice win, they could handle a couple of stumbles. And if they'd started at 23, good luck with that. They'd been left out like they were a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But they built it over a couple of years, got the better respect. They're number 10, and they slide in and get the last berth, and then they play great in the playoff and win 3 times and get to the final. So there's your model for starting in the middle of the rankings.
Right. And you want more, and go prove it out on the field. Start high and finish high.
That's nice. The other thing I found interesting in this was, we always say in the NBA, most years I can say, I'll pick 3 teams, and you get the field, who will pick the champion. And me getting to pick 3 teams first, I can usually pick the champion, probably 7 or 8 times out of 10 in a decade. College football, 6 different teams got votes for number 1. Now, the recent history of the team that's ranked number 1 in the preseason actually winning the thing, it's not happening. But the 6 at the top, if I gave you the 6 or the field, I think I'd take the 6, and I think you would too. But Ohio State, Oregon, Georgia, Texas, Notre Dame, and Indiana are the 6 who got first place votes. Most of them went to Ohio State. They had 38. Texas only had 2. 5, 6, 7 for Oregon, Georgia, and Notre Dame.
I'm choosing Texas, I can tell.
That's just because you want to sing the song. Even though later on you're going to
say something about,
even though later on you're going to see something about Sarkisian winning big games. So you're not going to pick the Longhorns, but you will.
I'm choosing Texas.
You will always be an Ella fella.
I can tell.
Yeah. The next 6 teams: Miami, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, Alabama, Texas Tech. Like any of them to win the national title? Somebody didn't get a single preseason vote? I mean,
go over them one more time.
Miami, number 7. A&M, number 8. Oklahoma, 9. Ole Miss, 10. Alabama, 11. Texas Tech, 12.
Oh, I think they all have a shot.
Would you drop down even further? Like the next 6 is LSU, USC, BYU, Michigan,
oh my
Penn
gosh,
State,
LSU's
Tennessee.
Spending millions. Yeah.
So I was a little surprised to see them at 13 because of that. Yeah, because they've gone hard. They've raised a ton of money. They've spent a ton of money.
Yeah, and I have to admit, I'm gonna, not exactly pull out the pom poms for them. But yeah, I would think if you're spending all this cash,
then for sure.
I mean, there's a lot of storylines we can follow in this next 6 here, which is, I mean, obviously LSU. We've been watching Lane Kiffin since he was at USC, and he's always got something to say. He's out there on social media.
Yeah.
USC, obviously, you and I have followed USC forever.
Lincoln Riley's been talking about, we got through the heavy lifting. Friggin' 5 years?
I know. In the transfer portal era, when everybody, Signetti's remaking it in 2. What did you need 5 for?
Pete Carroll's sitting over there like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. And his defense has never been close to good enough.
And now you can openly cheat, and it's not cheating.
It's not. You've obviously got BYU. We got a local in the group. We got Kyle Whittingham at Michigan in the group. Penn State, we followed Iowa State. Penn State was ranked top 3 in the preseason poll a year ago, had the 3-game losing streak, and fired their coach.
Which I thought was ridiculous.
I get it. There's a long line of people right behind you agreeing with you, but nonetheless they did it. Now they're sitting at 17. And then Tennessee.
Fire him during the season, no less.
I find those, he didn't even make it to the end of the year. Coming off a good playoff run the year before.
Right.
They've been in the semis. And then it's like, but they didn't beat. Oh, now it's like, how good are the playoff teams you beat? You won a playoff game, but it's not good enough because of who you were playing.
I thought it was. That's the reality of the world.
But people writing checks at Penn State wanted it to happen. They wrote the checks to make him go away, and they wrote the checks for new staff to come in. It goes back to what you always say about why are these 50, 60, and 70 years old with all this cash want to hang out with this 40-year-old coach and this 20-year-old player.
And I'm a sports guy, and I still think it's way over the top.
It's crazy. Somewhere in there is the champion. But where? My guess is it's in the top 6.
Well, I mean, that's a safe bet. I'll give you that. Yeah. But that's the beauty of football. The ball can bounce either way, especially at the college level. They can do something stupid. And we'll be watching, man. As much as everybody says the game is screwed up and this and that,
we'll be watching.
We'll all be watching.
Yeah. Well, and don't forget the hate watching. I mean, you're not the only ones looking at LSU thinking, Lane. There's plenty of people who think Lane Kiffin's got a big mouth and they want to see him fail. And now the fact that he's at LSU and they've spent all this cash, that's just going to accelerate that. And Lane seems to thrive on it because he doesn't. Now he's finally starting.
He seeks it out.
He's finally saying, well, I've been told to get off social media, and I'm going to do less of it.
No, he's not.
He didn't say he wasn't going to do none of it.
He's not going to do less.
He's a tweaker.
He is.
I actually enjoy him.
Is he from Jersey?
Exactly. He is awesome at social media.
Right. He tweaks. He's funny in that way. Yeah. Be yourself. You're always told to be yourself. That's who he is. So be it. I don't mind the guy.
Even when he was off the radar at FIU.
He took a bunch of crap last year for leaving, but the system set it up. He wanted the other job. The other job was better. And we keep blaming individuals. We want to blame the Dodgers. We want to blame Texas Tech. That's stupid. You got a bleeding body, so throw a Band-Aid on it. That's not going to change anything. You got to change the whole thing rather than use those as examples for sure, but then make the changes at the top level.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Stay tuned. Jay Drew coming up to talk BYU football.
3, 2, 1. This is Scotty G and Coach Tim LeComb.
For Utah, it's offense and maybe defensive line, but primarily the offensive line. And so I'm like, okay, maybe I got to dig a little deeper here. But honestly, the more I kept looking at it, the more I kept thinking, it really comes down to those 2 position groups. Can Utah have offensive linemen that can step up?
I think the big question mark outside of the offensive line for Utah nationally is Morgan Scalley.
Yeah.
But nobody even talks about that around here because I think everybody has a real comfort factor with the way things looked in that bowl game, honestly. But the bottom line was they were sharp. They took advantage of opportunity more so than maybe a Whittingham team would. It felt like the guys were loose and ready to ball. That's like a sign. And then you hear all the stuff from the guys, how happy they are.
Catch Scotty G and Coach weekdays from 10 to 2. Presented by Mountain Land Supply on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. PK, we have a couple questions up here that are linked. Morgan Scalley on Monday was asked about this new ruling, the court decision in Colorado, the class of 2022 recruits getting a 5th season of eligibility. He said he'll explore any ways to help the Utes win should he bring back players who were seniors last season. And that also brings up the question, should players in the class of 2022 get another year of college eligibility? I mean, these two are linked. They're separate deals, but they're clearly linked. I think to the first question here, 2022, I was fine when it was 4 years to play 5. I adapted when it was you get 4 games. Okay, fine. That's good for the kids. What the heck? You're on the team. You're redshirting. You get to play a little bit. And then we see all these transfers at the end of the year. So suddenly, okay, bowl games don't count towards the 4. Because some dudes were having problems fielding position groups and literally had to pass on a bowl game because they didn't have enough O-linemen or whatever. So I've adapted all this change. I just don't see why they need a 5th year. I don't get it. Why the push for 5 for 5? And it's going to squeeze freshmen and sophomores. I mean, they're going to get caught in it.
Well, the other thing is they're doing away with red shirts, medical hardships. The whole idea is you get 5 years, and you get injured, you have an extra year essentially to work with in that.
I get it.
And if it's luck of the draw, if you play 5 years, you play 5 years.
I get all that. I just still don't think it's necessary. And I get their logic. I was fine with it the way it was. You like the class of 2022 getting another year?
Well, I think that Morgan should see if Cam Rising is healthy, see where he's at.
Hey, he's an offensive coordinator now. Why does he want to?
Right. Well, okay. Well, he can be offensive coordinator here, too.
Calls him plays. Draw him from the dirt.
Roger Staubach did.
It was good enough for Roger.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah. As long as they stop and they don't have
6 for 6, 7 for 7.
Yeah, and they got this exception, that exception.
Well, they're going to have exceptions. There's exceptions.
But then don't.
For military service, there's exceptions for
that's not an exception. Missions. That's not an exception.
You're talking more about the medical years and that kind of stuff.
Because all that means is some Mormon guys. Let's call it like it is. No one else is going, and they're not going to the military.
They're calling it the 3 M's: maternity, military, or missions.
Sure, for the women, that's another story.
Yeah, those are the 3 exemptions.
I got no problem for the women's because I think that's probably going to be a minority of young women, but so be it. The military deal, they send you to the prep school and then you come back because they used it as a badge of honor. We don't redshirt. They kind of already did.
But your 19-year-old is playing this bonus year of kind of sort of high school football.
Yeah.
So.
And that's it. And then you get your 4, and then you could transfer out and not have the military obligation, I think, after 1 or 2. But then if you stay, you got the military obligation, so be it. And everybody recognizes that. And everyone's fine with that, I believe. The 5-year deal, if it allows them to be more of a human being, and what I mean by that is, and myself, I had to pay every penny of my own education. My parents gave me not 1 cent. And so that required me, I took out student loans, didn't pay them off till I was in my 30s, but I also had to work. Mm-hmm. So I was working 25 hours a week, right? And with that in mind, it was hard for me to take 16, 18 hours. And so we hear these kids and the Devon Bailey story on the air. Well, I wanted to do this construction management or whatever it was, but I had to take these other classes because I needed to stay eligible, blah, 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 yada, yada.
He couldn't take engineering classes because he was busy playing football, which isn't you having to go to the park and turn the lights on and off, but nonetheless, there's a place he's got to be and a number of hours he's got to be in the football building, and it makes it hard to get the classwork done.
So if they could spread it out and they're making the progression towards the academic requirements and it takes them 5 years, I don't see anything wrong with that.
Right now, the coaches say, and Bronco said this, I think you were on vacation when he said it, but Bronco's like, well, all the kids are staying and working out all summer to get ready for the season, so they all take classes there. Right, so they take the lighter load and still get in the fall and still get done in 4 years.
Right, but maybe that makes it easier for them, and then you have more kids who graduate. Maybe not, but maybe so.
I think
and if that's a benefit and they can play sports for another year, it doesn't hurt me.
No, who it hurts is they get the 5th year, so now the freshman classes are going to get smaller.
Will get the
no. They'll
yes.
No.
Yes.
They'll have the 85 player roster spread out across 5 years.
It's not 85 anymore. It's 105.
It's 105. They'll have the 105 spread out. Well, it used to be 85 and 20 for 105, and now it's 105.
Well, no, it used to be 123.
Yeah.
Okay, if you go way back, it used to be nothing.
Well, we don't want to go way back.
Yeah, but
we want to stay actually right now and look ahead.
Those 105 will be spread through 5 years instead of 4. So there'll be kids who don't get to play because somebody else is playing a 5th year. And even if you get to be on the team, you'll be standing.
I didn't get to play point guard at the U of U because Andre Miller was there. Okay, that's BS.
Guy.
There's plenty of other places you can go play.
And they'll all be playing 5th-year guys, too. It's going to squeeze.
But if you're better, this is not junior high where everybody gets a trophy.
Right, but you said it doesn't matter to me. Yeah, but it matters to somebody. It's not your year of eligibility or your opportunity to play that's being lost.
That's it. So just because you couldn't play that 1 year, that means you could never play again.
The size of all those classes is going to get cut down. And it's simple math, and you know it.
The sizes of all those classes. And so you're not good enough to play. Welcome to the real world.
Yeah, and in the next argument, you're saying I want more opportunities for more kids.
If they're good enough, this is not a right here. It's a privilege. You have to earn it. No one has a right to be on a team. And I don't care what you are and what your Ys are. None of that. No, there's not a right. You don't have a right to be on the high school team. You've got to be good enough. And if you're not good enough, find another place. Transfer to another school. Go work harder. All those types of things. Yeah, okay. There you go. That's reality. And you're going to find that in the next year in the 6th year when you go trying to find a job. And if you don't have the same last name as the company owner, it's going to be harder. Okay.
And that's all true when Arizona dropped junior college football, which you have lamented. Right. And this is the same deal. It's going to be fewer opportunities for kids.
But life goes on. I get it.
It went on with the other one, too.
Yeah. And so you got to find another thing to do. And maybe that makes you work harder. Yeah. That's it. Boy, wow, life's not fair. Who knew? Yeah, I get it. We're not giving out participation points here. So I don't have a problem with it. You don't get to play. I didn't get to play. I got cut in high school. I got cut. I literally got freaking cut. And my mother went in and said, either your brains or put my son on the team.
Godfather reference, people.
And 2 weeks later, they called me back. But it was a devastating blow. I got cut.
The line is actually, in 5 seconds, either your brain or your signature is going to be on the... No, it was signature and then brain. Yeah.
So, I mean, things happen like that. I mean, okay. But maybe you could find... That's the deal with the transfers, right? We see that... There's a guy sitting in there last week in your chair. We got 385-pounders coming in. They're 11 years old. And so somebody then's going to get stuck and not make the team.
Yep.
Well, where's your outrage on that? Go protest that today.
It's already happening. Left and right.
So it's the way it's always been.
Ryan says... No, I don't like it, but there are no rules anymore. It's an absolute disaster the way college sports is run.
And yet
we're going to sit down on Saturday and watch the games anyway.
And if your team wins, you're going to go crazy. And so I really don't want to hear it.
Brian says it doesn't really matter. There's no guidelines or real regulations or restrictions for players or for schools. They're all doing whatever they want anyway.
Until something is done to change the bigger problem, and we're going to hear this year, some fan is going to act crazy at an NBA game, and the fan's going to be drunk. Oh, we got to stop this fan. Meanwhile, here's your $17, $18, $19 beer. And you can only buy 2, but you bring the honey, and then you walk back with 4.
All right.
And then you go back again and again. Oh, and let's cut it off in the 7th inning or at the end of the 3rd quarter. That'll solve everything. No, you want to solve the darn problem, don't sell it in the first place. But they're not going to do it because they're making money. I don't want to hear it.
So how does that relate to the 5th year of college football?
Because it helps them get more money. And they get better players. They won't go to the NFL because they can make more money in the college game. Yeah. I already saw somebody. I think it was the
there was a foreign kid from Iowa State, Milovich or something like that, and he went. Did he go to? I think he's gone to Kentucky. Check this out.
Yeah.
And they said I saw a thing.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to be a high pick. He could have gone in the first round, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But they said by going to Kentucky, he's going to make more money. So
I literally saw a comment, and I don't know exactly what he gets paid, and I think they're going off other stories on other players. But why go to the NBA and make $500,000 when you can go back to college and make $5 million?
And you're going to get way more PT.
Yeah.
And people are going to cheer for you. Yeah. And blah, 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 blah. You're going to be big man on campus.
Don't want to be the 15th guy at the end of the bench. Or the two-way guy in the
you got to
G
go
League.
buy him donuts and do all that stuff. So I don't think the NCAA is saying, "Oh, we're going to be benevolent here." I don't trust anybody. What is your money motivation? Because that's usually the reason why you do things.
Dan doesn't like it. He says the line has to be drawn somewhere. It's time for the madness of super seniors to end.
But I'm fine with that too. I was just looking for potential benefits for the, quote, student athlete. And I related it to me because it would have been I could have done it, but it would have been a lot harder because I had to work 25 hours a week. And it was a 45-minute drive from where I worked back and forth that it was easier if I spread it out. Of course, I ran out of money and I didn't know what I was going to do that fifth year. And there's a reason why I will always be loyal to my deceased brother-in-law and my sister because they paid for the freaking tuition.
Oh, so you did get some help at the end. They stepped in.
But I had to pay it back.
Then you had to pay them back, yeah.
But you got paying ahead of time.
Yeah.
And then...
But better to get a loan from them than from the government.
I couldn't anymore.
You maxed it out.
Yeah. I'd already... You couldn't get
it for the fifth year.
Right.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what I was going to do. My parents would have given me the money, but they didn't have
it, right. Yeah. But they stepped in and they were
And my
bridged.
sister and her husband were two college age. They were younger. Yeah. They paid for it, and I made the payments, and then on my birthday, they forgave the rest.
There you go.
Yeah.
And look at you now, baby.
And I credit them to a large, I've told you that, to a large degree
well,
as
not
to
just,
why I'm here.
Not just for that, but for mentoring you and pushing you. I don't know what I did. We know what you're going to do. You're going to go
100%.
You're going to go to college.
Yeah.
No, you're going to go back to college.
Yeah, I would call it a violent shove.
Well, they were in Arizona, but they had the Jersey roots, so.
Yeah, including picking me up because I had dilly-dallied, taking me to the bank to sign the papers for the loan. Coming to my parents'
They
house.
had you by the collar of the shirt.
Picked me up.
They had you by the collar
placed
of
me
the
in
shirt.
the car. Took me to, for all those of you from Phoenix, the bank was at Metro Center, which was a huge mall at the time, and it's gone away, but that's where the bank was. And we had to do it there. Yeah. And I just thought my initial reaction was maybe it's better. I wasn't even thinking football or sports-wise. I was thinking my own situation. Did it make it better so these people then can have a life in the meantime and spread? I'm trying to think of academics, which may be Pollyannish and idiocy of me doing that.
We can drop the word may.
Yeah.
Because if they have more time, they're just going to expect them to spend more time in the football facility.
You're probably right.
Right. But I'm with you. I was at the end of 4 years because I spent so much time doing college radio, which was a volunteer thing. But, build the resume, and it's how I got internships, and it's how I got a part-time job when I was still in school and got my foot in the door to get hired. Between that and having to work to pay for the portion of college I paid for, I was 5 classes short of graduating after 4 years. So I had to finish up those last 5 classes in a 5th year.
I don't think that it's not something that I think they deserve or we must do it. We must right this wrong. But I can live with it as long as it's 5 and there's not any exceptions.
I think the real push for them is I think they're just sick of litigating the bonus year or years. They're sick of litigating the 5th year. They're sick of I think the coaches are like, we have injuries. We don't have a waiver wire. We need to play this guy a 5th game. Why should that be the game that costs them the year? Move the bag back at first base. And then we've seen guys get 6th. And in some cases, there was a USC what was the guy's name? USC transfer running back who went to Utah, who I think came back for his 7th year because he kept getting hurt.
Was it Stowers? Ray Stowers?
Ray sounds right. I don't know if the last name was right.
I don't know.
But it was like 15 years ago.
There's a guy at Montana this year who's playing a ninth year. He's a former USC player in his own right who's playing a ninth year of football because he's had 5 season-ending injuries.
And I think they're sick of litigating all that. I think that's driving the fifth.
That's why this is what.
That's really what's doing it. It's like, man, we're getting lost in the details here. Just give them the 5th year.
And so be it. If they think that it really must be, I don't know. Yeah, Ray Stowers. How about this?
Ray.
Received a 6th year at the U after being granted a medical hardship extension by the NCAA. And he gained in 2009, he had 3 carries for 12 yards on the season, and they all came against the Aztecs.
Yeah.
But I don't know that he went to SC. I don't know why I came up with that name.
Way to pull one out of the sky there. That was something. All right, DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jay Drew's here at 9 o'clock. Stay with us.
They've been doing it for a while.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
I think the Jazz want to make the playoffs this year, and they really have no motivation for not making the playoffs this year because their draft pick goes to the Memphis Grizzlies in the Jaren Jackson Jr. trade. How motivated are the Jazz actually going to feel to maximize the win total of this roster using all the assets available to them to get there? My guess is it's actually not as high as fans would think because they don't have to do anything exactly right.
The truth is they are dedicated to it. But that doesn't mean they have to do anything about it right now.
Sure.
But no, not one person in that building, if you went up to him and said, hey, is the Bosnian Beak your answer at center? Not one of them is going to say yes.
Right. Or Jackson Hayes.
Or any of that. No, they're not.
Yeah.
So, yes, they do need to address the problem, for sure. Do they need to address it right now?
I don't think so.
Absolutely not. No, why would they?
Catch Jake and Ben afternoons from 2 to 6 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's a Win Tickets Wednesday. Caller 12 right now, 801-575-ZONE. Wins a pair of tickets to watch the Black Crows with special guest Whiskey Myers at Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater on August 13th. Call right now. Yock's ready to go. All right, PK, we were just talking about 5 for 5, and we can talk about all we want. They're going to do what they want, and I suspect they're going to do the 5 for 5, and that 5 years from now we'll be thinking that this is the new normal, and we won't even be talking about it. That's my guess on how this will play out. But, man, the way college football is going, you never really know because it changes all the time. But what it does mean in the short run, whatever it turns out to be 4 or 5 years down the line, how does it impact teams now? Morgan Scalley was asked about this. He said he would explore any ways that help the Utes win. Should he bring back players who were seniors last season? I think the answer is clear, quick, and to the point, if it helps them win. He did say he probably has 1 or 2 roster spots for those guys. So if you're wondering how many guys he'll bring back and what that would look like, I would start right there. Dan says it's not up to him. The NCAA says they're out of eligibility. Scalley can't override that. If the court battles go in the class of 2022's favor, it looks like they can't enter the portal and would have to return to the last school they were at, which may no longer have a scholarship available. So this could be a pretty narrow window for guys to take advantage of this decision. Yeah. But he's got a spot or 2. That's Ford Scalley's words. We'll see what they do. Take a look at there's a big question here, like who's interested, who wants in on this? A lot of the NIL money is, at some schools, it's got to be committed. Maybe they can scrape together something for them.
Yeah, I would like to think in this situation that there's not very many, that these guys are interested in getting on with their lives. There comes a time that you have to move on.
And have you been working out?
And they've already mentally moved on. And some of them are trying to make the NFL. That becomes interesting. Are we going to have a situation where they spend all of August and half of July in a camp, get cut, and then show up on a college roster?
I'm back.
That just seems a little silly, but what do I know? That they wouldn't do that. That they would, they'd want to get on, and hopefully they've set themselves up educationally, and made enough contacts, because that's what these guys and gals should really be doing, making the contacts in the business world, in the private sector, to be able to go down the road to find yourself employed in a situation that you want to be employed in.
Take advantage of that and the relationships and the contacts that you were able to make in the community. That, to me, that's where the tragedy comes in. If these guys, and I use the general neutral term here, guys, that when they're done and they're not good enough to play professionally, that they don't have anything to do. After you've been afforded this golden opportunity, and you literally not only do not have no debt, you have money that you should have been using wisely. And if you blow all that, that's a shame.
There's probably multiple people I should be citing now. I just don't know everybody's stories off the top of my head, but the one that really sticks with me because it happened when I first got here, and one way or another we keep bumping into each other. It's Sharif Shah, and he was a really good player. He passed out on camera doing a post-game interview, had major health concerns, had to stop playing, but all the boxes you're talking about checking, he checked them. He checked the education. He got a job as a lawyer. He stayed connected to the football program, so I knew him when he was a sideline reporter. And he had a relationship with Kyle Whittingham, and they stayed in touch, and Whittingham recruited him multiple times. Come be a coach, you'd be really good. He said no multiple times. He was doing the legal thing and progressing different firms, and his legal career was going great. And then Kyle said, you really be good. We're going to the Pac-12. I'm not going to keep asking you. This is the last time, and decided to take the jump. And look how it's worked out for him now over more than a decade. That's like the dream story right there. He checked multiple boxes, cashed in multiple ways, even though the playing career did not go, and he wanted to go play in the NFL for a decade. And he was a good college player. He might have been able to pull it off. But when he couldn't, he was able to pivot. You know, the health didn't allow him to do it. So pivot and go. And he did.
Right.
And he's still riding it now.
But I don't have any problem with what Scally said there. You're looking for ways to make your team better. And if somebody can come in and replace Johnny, sucks for Johnny. But those guys are paid to win games.
I think the guy everybody's wondering about is Naquari Rogers, who has played 4 years. He was on the team last year, so he could come back. He doesn't have to be in the transfer portal. What does he want to do? What is he in shape to do? I don't think anybody's in the media heard directly from him. So we'll see how that plays out. And there's might be some other guys, but that's the one that jumps to the front of the brain right there. Give him a little more depth in the running back room. Ran for 387 yards and 11 scores last year. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. When we come back, BYU football, opening day today. Jay Drew, covering the team for the Deseret News, joins us next. Stay with us.
When we've reached our limits of adulting, it's easy to long for simpler times, like enjoying Saturday morning cartoons without a care in the world, or savoring every last drop of sugary milk at the bottom of your cereal bowl. Well, Kachava's new Cinnamon French Toast all-in-one nutrition shake gives you all the nostalgic feels and benefits. Made with real cinnamon bark for the richest, deepest, most authentic flavor. Just 2 scoops provide the complete nutrition your body craves with protein, fiber, greens, and more. It's an easy upgrade to your daily wellness ritual. No fillers, no nonsense. Just the highest quality ingredients that taste delicious. Adulting may not always be fun, but at least you can stock up on treats without asking your parents for permission. So whether you're kickstarting your morning or fueling your afternoon, treat yourself to a sip of nostalgia. Go to Kachava.com and use code FITNESS for 15% off your first order. That's Kachava, Kachava.com, code FITNESS.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Another opening day, PK. It's like a passage of time. Marking the days, the months, the years as they go spinning by.
Mm-hmm.
Jay Drew has been to many of these.
Oh, this is his 47th year covering BYU.
And he's doing it again. Jay Drew, good morning.
Good morning, guys.
What are you most looking forward to hearing and talking about? What's at the top of your to-do list?
Oh, boy. Unlike most years, there's just not anything that really stands out or is a main storyline, or like last year, obviously, with the quarterback situation, and the year before, probably the same thing. This year, there's really nothing that really kind of jumps out. I guess the biggest thing would be the new coaches. Kelly Poppinga is the new defensive coordinator. They brought in Lewis Walker and DeMario Warren to coach the secondary. So I would guess that would be probably the biggest question mark. How are they going to replace Jay Hill and all that he brought to the program, and Gennaro Guilford? So that would probably be, I guess, the biggest thing. I know that's not juicy, and that's nothing to do really with the actual players themselves, but that's kind of the thing that I guess stands out the most for me.
I've been reading the stuff in the Deseret News as they profile each of the teams. And so BYU's going into this season with high expectations for a lot of folks. It's get to the conference title game, get to the playoff, and go from there. And it's probably a worthy goal at this point. How do you think BYU stacks up relative to the competition and the main competitors in the Big 12?
Yeah, I think there's, even with Texas Tech's quarterback situation, I still think they're the most talented team, the best team with the best, off-season acquisitions out of the transfer portal and the best returning players coming back. So I think Texas Tech is probably still a cut above everybody. I would group BYU, Utah, Arizona in kind of a little second tier. I'm probably leaving out one other team that
K-State maybe, TCU.
Oh yeah, or Houston. I think Houston. A lot of people are talking about Houston. So, but I think BYU's right there. I was really impressed last year with how Utah finished, and with the bowl game. And I know they got a new coach, but I really like Utah's quarterback situation. I think Utah's got the better quarterback situation than any team in the conference. Including BYU and including Texas Tech, with basically two guys that are, you can rely on. So, but anyway, I would put those teams right there. And as you look at the season, I think the one thing you really got to consider is Texas Tech has a pretty easy schedule as far as their conference games. They don't have to play BYU or Utah. Most of their tough games are at home. So I think you got to really consider that, and then looking at BYU, there's some definite landmines out there for BYU that I don't know if fans are really paying attention to. For instance, BYU, after they play Notre Dame, has to go to UCF, and UCF has a bye the week that BYU is playing Notre Dame. That's got to be a tough one. BYU has to go to TCU, where they've never really – I think they've won one game there in 20 years. And so that's another thing you got to consider is not only who are the best teams, but who have the most favorable schedules.
PK was at that TCU win. He remembers it well. He's got stories.
Oh, I was Jay Drew before Jay Drew.
See?
Yeah. And don't forget Rhiannon Potke.
How can I forget Rhiannon Potke? It's at the tip of my tongue at all times.
Absolutely.
You've written a lot leading up here to the opening, and people can go into the Deseret News, go to Deseret.com and read it. One headline will catch everybody's eye. Is it college football playoff or bust for BYU football in 2026? Given how good they've been the last 2 years, as you cite in the story, 23-4, and given the fact that Kalani had serious interest from Penn State and people thought they were going, and BYU ponied up even more resources to make football better, does the answer to that question have to be yes?
I don't necessarily think so. That's a tough one. I mean, a lot of things, crazy things could happen. I would say if Bear Bachmeier plays every game, if he's healthy, then I think there's no excuses. They've set up for this. They're on the track for this. But things can happen where you got to give them the benefit of the doubt. Ironically, I wrote almost that exact same headline before the basketball season. I said, "Is it Final Four or bust for BYU basketball?" And everybody knows how that turned out. So it was bust, basically. And so with football, obviously with basketball, the reason I bring that up is that they had the injury to Richie Saunders at the end of the year kind of derailed that. So I think you have to leave that kind of window open if something unforeseen happens, and especially at BYU, and we'll probably get into this in a minute, but beyond Bear Bachmeier, I think if there's, speaking of another big question for BYU, it's a backup quarterback. There's just not really anybody outside of Bachmeier who has played that much in a college football game, and so that's another huge thing to consider. And I'm sure as they work with Bear throughout the season, they'll obviously a big emphasis will be on sliding, running out of bounds, just avoiding injury at all costs.
Outside of injury, what do you think would keep potentially BYU out of the conference title game? Meaning, what are their weaknesses?
Yeah, I'm still not sold on the receiver position. I know every time you talk to Aaron Roderick or Fesi Sitake or Kalani, they think they're okay at receiver. I don't. I'm not sold yet on the Kyler Casper they brought in from Oregon, mostly because he didn't play that much at Oregon. I'm not sold yet on JoJo Phillips. They've talked about potential every year with him, and he just never seems to break out. I know last year he was injured. He had the broken collarbone, so that set him back. But I think it's just a huge loss that, obviously Chase Roberts ran out of eligibility. Parker Kingston, that situation's been well documented. Cody Hagan retired medically from football. I just don't see BYU having a go-to receiver and or a guy that can take the top off of defenses consistently, a speedster, a burner. JoJo Phillips might be that guy, but he just hasn't proven it yet. Tiger Bachmeier might be that guy, but he didn't have a great year last year. So that would be the number one question is just do they have a playmaker outside of L.J. Martin on that offense?
How about that freshman from Lehigh?
Yeah, I've heard a lot about him. Legend Glasker, cousin of linebacker Isaiah Glasker. He had a great spring. We didn't get to see a lot of it. We'll have to take their word for it for a lot of that. But yeah, he's a good one. But I mean, he's a true freshman. Very rarely do you see a true freshman step in at receiver. I mean, I know Austin Collie way back in your day, Patrick, was a great receiver as a freshman right out of the gates. But yeah, I just can't think of any others that have been that great right out of the gate for BYU.
Do you believe special teams, if they're in close games, if special teams, especially place kicking, but all of them, we've seen teams lose games on punt returns and block punts. Are they going to be good or are they going to be great?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be great, and they're going to replace Will Farron and Sam Vanderhaar as their kicker and punter with guys that are just unproven and untested. So I mean, the jury's still out on that, and that'll be a big point of emphasis here in camp is to give those guys a lot of work, a lot of game experience and game situations. And speaking of Parker Kingston, they're really going to miss him. He was a great punt returner. He returned 2 or 3 punts for touchdowns for BYU in his career. He was also a little bit of a wild card back there. He did have a few drops and made some questionable decisions, but that's another area, kick returner and punt returner, where they really don't have a proven guy doing that. So special teams is a huge question mark. You got Justin Anna coming in to replace Kelly Poppinga as the special teams coordinator. Poppinga was really good at that. I think he's probably underrated as a special teams coordinator. And I'm not saying that there'll be a big drop-off, and Justin Anna has done it before at other places such as Utah State. But you're right, David. That's a big question mark is special teams.
I think part of the deal of a coordinator is getting the kids to believe in what you say is gospel. And I've seen that. I've seen it on both ends where they didn't believe anything you said, and they did believe what you said. And Jay Hill was one in which they definitely believed in what he said. what do you think the acclimation period is going to be for Kelly Poppinga now running the defense? Because, and I know he's got assistants there and special assistants, whatever you call them. But in the moment, it's going to come down to what he's thinking there and then how much the kids believe in it and be able to execute it.
Yeah, that's a good point you bring up. I think the fact that they were able to retain a lot of those defensive guys, and they even kept some of those guys away from Michigan, like a Faletau Satuala, the kid from Bountiful. Others had opportunities to go elsewhere. And I think it was really telling that they did stay when Kelly Poppinga was made defensive coordinator. To me, and, I'm not in the meetings. I'm not obviously there at a lot of the practices and all that. But to me, that was a pretty good sign that these guys are on board with Kelly. From everything we've heard in at the golf outing the last couple of days and throughout the off season, is these guys really like Lewis Walker, the cornerbacks coach that they brought in to replace Gennaro Guilford. It seems to me every player I've talked to really, really likes him. Demario Warren is kind of Kelly Poppinga's guy, a guy that Kelly really wanted to bring in. He worked with him at Boise State. Of course, Demario was the former Southern Utah coach. So I think the players really like this defensive coaching staff, and I think that means a lot.
Jay Drew joining us, BYU kicking off camp today. Do you see the investment that they put in the team directly? Is it obvious? Sometimes when they invest in programs, it's really obvious and you can see it. You see it happen and you see the energy they get from it. Other times it's more behind the scenes. Can you put your finger on what's happened? Because that was such a big offseason with Kalani staying and the offer from Penn State in the match. Can you see how that's already moving the program forward, or is that one of those things that maybe you don't see until you see the results down the line?
Yeah, I can't really point to anything outward and say, yeah, that's a definite, sign right there. I guess, maybe a cynic would say, well, why weren't they able to keep Jay Hill? Why weren't they able to put up more money to keep him from Michigan? But from everything I've heard, and maybe you guys have heard the same thing or maybe not, that Jay was pretty much going to go to Michigan. The money wasn't a factor for him. When Kyle got that job, it was kind of always Jay Hill's dream, maybe to work with Kyle again and to go to a big-time blue blood program. So, maybe no amount of money would have – that's what I've heard anyway, that no amount of money would have kept him in Provo. But as far as other outward, like, signals or signs or anything, I can't sit here and say that I've seen anything yet. I mean, obviously, we'll probably know more over the course of the next month or two. But, yeah, I can't really point to anything and say, oh, yeah, that's where kind of an influx of money or resources has taken place.
The BYU golf tournament for the media was last week. I don't know where you finished, Jay, in your group, but the only thing I know is you didn't finish first.
Did you read my article? I'm just wondering because I haven't heard from you. I literally put your name in my article as the team that won.
I got it up on the wall at home. I sent it to all my family.
Oh, I just thought, the minute that thing hits the interwebs, I'll be hearing from PK. But no, no, we were not good. We were we were below middle of the pack, but not rock bottom. Let's put it that way.
You weren't bombing them like you usually do?
No, I'm too old for that. No, we. I'll say this: we stuck to media members for our team, and I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Oh, accusations of a ringer? Is that what I'm hearing? A little passive aggressive?
Oh, wait! You're complaining now that you got beat by a girl?
Absolutely, and then the Mitch Harper. I mean, I'm interviewing. I'm asking him, "Hey, who was on your team?" And he's like, "Telling me guys I've never heard of." And I'm like, "Who's that?" And he goes, "Oh, that's my brother-in-law." I'm like, "Good grief! How did they let that team sneak on there?"
Well, we had two media guys who bailed on me, so what the heck?
Yeah, no, I'm not pointing fingers. I'm congratulations.
I mean, if you're going to point fingers, you might as well give Jackie top billing. I'm reading it right now. You gave PK top billing. Jackie was second, but PK is painted as the star.
I can't wait till it cools down. I'm going to just revel in that blanket from Minky Couture.
Was it a BYU blanket? I didn't get a good look at it.
I don't know.
Oh, you haven't opened it yet?
Actually, it is opened, and it's on a spare bed right now. I saw it, but it's folded, so I haven't looked at it. I heard it was supposed to be, but I don't know. And I'll wear it with pride. I'll use it with pride. Absolutely. I'm not like you. I don't hate BYU.
Oh, we had to go there, didn't we? Oh, starting out the season just right, just perfect.
Hey, it's just the fact that you protect BYU. We need to know who got the golf cart stuck. You wouldn't name names, Jay. This is this is you protecting BYU. So you've got that going for you. You can be hated for protecting BYU and hating BYU at the same time. Join the club.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to throw one kid under the bus. So,
Did you know that Jay Drew had the unique experience of playing the same golf course without leaving on 2 separate days?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, and I was in Alaska during the summer solstice in June 21st, I think it was, and teed off at one day and finished the next because it's there's only 4 hours of darkness up there or the summer solstice. So, yeah,
Man.
That was kind of a fun little thing to do.
The phrase "I'd like a late tea time" carries new meaning, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's absolutely. And a funny thing about that, when I went to tee off, they said, or when I signed in, they said, you'll need bear spray because there's so many bears. This was in Anchorage, Alaska, and everybody has to buy bear spray. And then the guy said, if you hit the ball into the woods, just don't go get it for 2 reasons. 1, bears, obviously, and 2, poison oak.
You've convinced me.
So, guys, I lost 9 golf balls on that 18 holes. 9 golf balls because I took them dead serious, man. I wasn't taking one step into those woods.
You remember that one time we were up at Wasatch Mountain and you were looking for a ball by the woods and a deer jumped out and it just scared the crap out of you?
Yep. I'm afraid of my own shadow.
And I'm over there laughing like crazy.
Oh, man. Can't take you anywhere, PK. It'll come back to haunt me.
All right, Jay, I think we've done enough damage here. PK's work is done. We will let you go. Go enjoy day 1 of yet another college football camp.
Yep, my 19th for covering BYU, so It's going to be a fun one.
Yeah. Now, how many years did you cover the high schools for? Because it seems like you're way past it now.
About 14, yeah.
Okay.
I think I was around 14 years I did high school, so, yep, been around a long time.
Jay, we appreciate it. Thanks for joining us. Good luck. Enjoy the day.
Okay, guys. Thanks for having me on.
There's Jay Drew. You can read him, Deseret.com. Check out their sports page archive. He's got a lot of stories up there, and he covers the golf tournament in excruciating detail. The interesting stuff in that story was that when you're new to the Cougar program and you've been other places in college football, it kind of blows your mind that this is happening.
Why?
Not every coach wants to go out and have a golf tournament and hang out with the media.
Okay, sure. Yeah,
and it's just like, why? Well, it's just like, well, this is how Kalani is wired. This is who he is, and this is what he wants to do. And these are the kind of relationships and bridges he wants to build. So it's different.
Yes, I think BYU has done a really good job as far as that and accommodating the media.
Yeah. All right, DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Everything you missed in this show. Next, stay with us.
Turn it up. Let's go. It's a new era for sports radio in Utah. This is the all-new KSL Sports Zone. As always, DJ and PK kick off your mornings from 6 to 10. Then introducing the newest addition to the KSL Sports Zone. The coach, Tim Lacombe, joins Scotty G every day from 10 to 2. And as you wrap up your day, Jake Scott and Ben Anderson are there with the best sports talk in Utah from 2 to 6. Live and local, all day, every day. Your home for the best sports radio in Utah is live, on air, online, and on the KSL Sports app. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
We all have routines. I'm Jabron, and with diabetes, mine was finger sticks. Sometimes I skip them because they hurt. The Freestyle Libre 3CGM changed that. It gives me glucose insights without finger sticks. Learn more at freestylelibre.us.
Finger sticks are required if your glucose alarms or readings do not match symptoms, or when you see check blood glucose symbol for the first 12 hours. The views expressed should not be used for medical diagnosis or treatment as a substitute for professional medical advice. Individual circumstances may vary. For prescription only. Safety info found at freestylelibre.us.
Slacker Radio headlines brought to you by Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan Wealth today, your local trusted financial fiduciary. Call them at 1-855-TRAJAN1 or visit their website at TrajanWealth.com. All right, stories of the day. BYU ranked 15th in the USA Today Coaches Preseason Poll. The Utes are 21. Good enough, PK. Launching pad. Obviously, they have to go out and win, and a lot of that stuff doesn't matter if you win the conference title because then you have an automatic bid to the playoffs. But you'd like to have a second path to the playoffs. They're not in the top 10. I guess that's where you really want to be, but they're also not that far away if they take care of business.
Yeah, I think what they need, obviously they got to take care of business, as you say, and then take care of business against the team that took care of business.
Texas Tech.
Well, all of them.
Take them down.
I mean, BYU beats Utah. Utah beats BYU. Mm-hmm. I know that it's foreign concepts to each other, but particularly for the Ute fan to want BYU to beat Notre Dame. I mean, I get that. It's hard for you to do. But if they rolled into that game November 7th undefeated, and the Utes, I think it probably have a better chance to be undefeated than BYU does because the schedule for BYU is a little tougher, that then you beat a team that, what would they be, 8-0, 7-0, whatever it is at that time, then you really take a leap. And so that's what – I think that's what the Big 12 is working against. I mean, it doesn't seem like the other two conferences, excluding the ACC, really needs to worry about that. Just worry about yourself.
They get credit for beating conference teams. Yeah. And in the Big 12 and the ACC, you don't automatically get credit for beating conference teams.
Right. And so we need, as a Big 12 membership, to have some top teams there, and then whoever wins, and that elevates you. And so then if you have a slip-up, that you're covered. I mean, clearly 2 years ago, the Cougars get off to the great start. Phenomenal win against BYU, Utah, controversial with the AD and the coach and everything. That drew attention to the conference, which I don't think it was necessarily a bad way. I know Mark Harlan, took abuse and all that, and that was, I'd never seen that, but that drew attention to the conference. And so actually that was good in a sense, that because, wow, that must have been something. What a heated game, right? You don't see that. And then having that next loss to Kansas, I think that's what kept them out of not receiving an at-large bid. It wasn't the bizarre finish when Dillingham had a brain fart against the Sun Devils. That
was weird.
That didn't keep them out. No. It was the prior game that kept them out.
I think the point about big non-conference games, and BYU has the biggest non-conference game in the league, but it doesn't matter. They've got to win their non-conference games. They've got multiple teams who could be good and maybe could help the Big 12's image, but they're not playing anybody in the non-conference. Texas Tech is at the top of that list. Houston, Arizona. There's really no chance for them to get non-conference wins. I mean, they just have to go 3-0 and they have to beat the teams in front of them, but there's nothing.
Are you talking about just in general when you say they?
I think Utah and BYU fans across the board need Big 12 teams to clean up a non-conference because this is the league.
Notre Dame and Texas A&M.
Yes, ASU's playing Texas A&M, and they will obviously be massive underdogs in that game, but find a way.
All conference opponents should be rooting for the Devils.
100%.
And BYU's got the Devils coming in. That's where you want them.
Right.
You'd love for them to come in. They go to Kansas, or not go, but they go to overseas to England. That just draws attention. Yeah. So if the Devils were to start 4-0, that would be great for the conference, and it'd be great for BYU because then you have that opportunity. And if you should lose a close game to them, that wouldn't be the end of the world. Whereas if you lose a game to the Devils and they're 2-4, that's going to sink you.
There are 3 groups of teams. There are a couple of teams, like you point out, that are playing high-profile non-conference games, and they need those wins. There's another group of teams that are playing low-profile Power 4 teams, and you can't afford to lose those. The Utes have to beat Arkansas. Colorado needs to beat Georgia Tech and Northwestern. Not that that's super sexy. TCU needs to beat North Carolina. I mean, it seems like North Carolina's going sideways at best, and it seems like a mess. If they break out, have a win over them. If they go 4-8, well, don't be one of the 4. So you got some to take care of business, and then you have some who are just playing. They're just not playing Power 4 teams. They're playing G5 teams, and I guess they better go 3-0, but nobody's going to notice or care. And then people will probably talk bad about them. There's always the Iowa State game. I don't know that Iowa State's prepped to win that with a coaching change and a lot of new players, and it's game 2.
Well, they're a big mystery.
Right. But again, root for the Big 12.
Yeah.
You gotta pull it off. You gotta find a way.
Until this thing expands to 24, you need the conference to do well.
Yeah. Because it's a one-bid league. It's when the Utes were in the Pac-12 and it was a Power 5, we always talked about, well, there's a league that can't get their team in. Now it's a bigger tournament. There's 4 leagues instead of 5, and it's 12 teams getting in instead of 4. So now you don't want that scarlet letter. Well, you're just a one-bid league, which is what the Big 12 is.
2 for 2.
So it's back to you got to find a way to do this.
And the problem is when they got to the conference title game, both have been blowouts.
Yeah, not super intriguing and interesting there, huh?
Now, if you're Texas Tech or the Sun Devils, you loved it because you got in.
Yeah.
But it's not good for the conference to have a blowout in that game.
Another game that it's going to be a massive underdog, probably even a bigger underdog than ASU against Texas A&M. Oklahoma State, Game 2 is playing Oregon at home.
And that thing was a disgrace last year.
Good luck with that,
I'll be pulling hard for Oregon State or Oklahoma State.
Oh, yeah. I don't know how they pull that off. I have no expectations, but I hope they pull that off.
Man, we'll see.
And there's a lot of games against middling ACC teams, and you better not lose them. Go out there and win, UCF. I mean, take down Pitt. I don't know what you get for it, but take them down anyway. West Virginia's playing Virginia, so another
a lot
chance
of those
to be an
games
ACC team.
that you don't get necessarily anything for losing or winning, but you get crushed for losing.
You do. Absolutely get crushed for losing. Colorado's playing Georgia Tech and TCU's playing North Carolina. So what is that, like 4? That's at least 4 games against the ACC. There's another one. Baylor's playing Auburn. There's a couple of SEC games in there. Baylor, Auburn, and Utah, Arkansas, a couple of SEC games.
The Big 12 has to prove it. They got to knock down the doors. It's like what they would say in the old boxing match. You got to knock out the incumbent. And that's what they have to do.
Beat the champ to be the champ.
To get that set. But they aren't the champs.
Yeah.
But you still, that's what they're up against. Clearly they're up against.
You got to beat the contender to be a contender.
And your mark needs to start whining about it November 1st.
Singing praises for the wins they get and complaining. I don't know how much you complain about the top 25. They got 4 teams in. You think Arizona should have been in, or TCU?
Oh, that's fine for now. But I'm talking about when it gets down to the cutting time.
Yeah.
I don't think he whined enough about BYU last year, or whoever it might be. He said stuff, but I want over the top.
But even if it doesn't pan out, does it set the stage for the next year? Just keep beating the drum.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think he needs to whine. These other guys we constantly have a tape measure contest between the SEC and the Big Ten.
So Big 12.
I'm sick of those guys, and they're doing it all the time.
Sankey and Petiti are really going out.
Yeah, they're constantly, no, we're bigger, blah, 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 blah. Well, your mark needs to start whining when we get into November if he's got a legitimate claim. And it's unbecoming and you don't want to do it, but you have to.
And that's what the money's
It's
for.
like working the referees. The coaches have to work the referees whether they want to or not. You have to do it.
You're the commissioner. That's what the money's for. A little unbecoming, but we need it done. So here's some cash.
The guy weighs
Go get it done.
161 pounds every day.
He knows it. He weighs himself every day.
He told me.
Yeah. If you'll talk about your weight like that, we'll go out and homer for the Big 12, will you?
Well, I was going to take him out back. I got you by 25. I'll drop you right now.
Other news, Dodgers, loaded. Skubal, actually pretty good. 2 runs, 4 hits, 6 innings. You'd take that. But they got beat by the Cubs 5-1. He gave up 2 runs, and they only scored 1.
Yeah,
So
wow.
5
I
straight
watched
losses.
that game, man. It was electric.
You could feel it, huh?
Yes. Yep.
Right through the screen. Reach out and grab you.
Yeah.
They're on MLB Network today, Wrigley Field, 12:20.
It is a day game, yeah.
Day baseball. Soak that up.
I've already checked that out.
Yeah. The soccer, Real Salt Lake, 1-1 with Tigres. They split the points, although in this tournament, then they go straight into penalties. They don't play the extra 30 minutes. And whoever wins penalties picks up another point. Tigres wins on penalties 6-5, so they get 2 points. RSL gets 1. It doesn't eliminate them, but they are right up against it. They got to win the next 2 games, get the full 3 points, and hope 7 gets them through. Last year it was a tiebreaker, and some teams on 7 got through and some didn't. The big news was Gozo did not play, wasn't even on the bench. Gonzo. It's not done yet. He was giving his phone number to somebody who's going over to England. Oh, meet with you and catch up next year. He thinks it's a foregone conclusion, but the T's have not been crossed. The I's have not been dotted. The ink is not dried, so.
I feel bad for you guys.
Because?
Because you're losing the guy.
Yeah. It's going to change
Gonzo.
Change everything. How quickly do they spend the money? If they spend it, when do they spend it? Who do they spend it on? One player, more than one player, decisions to be made. Whatever conversations they've had about that privately, they have not revealed publicly. That will be the next big thing after everyone blows a kiss and Gozo hits the road. Gonzo.
Kiss?
Blow a kiss and hit the road. Good night, everybody.
Blows a kiss.
Blow a kiss to the crowd and hit the road, Jack. Off to Crystal Palace.
I'm going to go to Cracker Box Palace.
Kids growing up, Jackson Dart. You watched him play high school football at Corner Canyon. Then he went off, had a good college career. Now he's with the Giants, a little dust up in training camp, tossing a football at the helmet of one of his teammates after running for a TD. John Harbaugh, head coach, no-nonsense guy, criticizing that, had the special teams unit back up 15 yards for the PAT, said, oh, that would have been a flag for taunting.
Well, we got to set the discipline early for the Giants, man.
Right?
Yes. None of these shenanigans will be tolerated ever again.
Ever again. I do think there's something to setting a tone. They had some talent in place. They underachieved a little bit. They've had another year to grow and add guys. And Harbaugh, worst to first might be too much, but we do see teams go worst to first unexpectedly, and certainly come from worst to a winning record and wild card.
I have a winning record.
Yeah, and the wild card now with 7 teams getting in, if you're not in, you're close to it. And the Seahawks a couple of years ago were left out at 10-7. I mean, it happens.
If you have a winning record for the Giants in Dart's second year and Harbaugh's first year, the
arrow's up and everybody's feeling good.
For sure.
Yeah. And I don't see why they can't make a big jump.
Then I'll be a Giants fan.
Back to your roots, hop on the bandwagon. Scoot over. There's room.
I did have this Giants helmet when I was a kid.
Oh, okay, there's a link.
I can recall. And I used to wear it around the house. There's probably a picture of me somewhere of me with a Giants
7-year-old you?
Yeah. I remember having a little Giants helmet that I would put on during football season.
All right, DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Your feedback's coming up next. Stay with us. DJ and PK, it's time for your feedback. BYU 15, Utah 21, ranked in the coaches poll. Too high, too low, just about right. What do you think? Vic says it all depends on which echo chamber you listen to. Vic at One True Aggie. Sitting on the sideline watching the Utes and Cougars.
I think this porridge tastes just right.
Thanks, Goldilocks.
And I don't think it's by far the most important thing.
but it does have a level of meaning to be established. And then you keep getting your benefit of doubt and you build on it. And that helps. Everything helps, and you want it all pointing in the right direction. So it's good for both schools to be in there. Certainly better than not.
The reason it matters more than ever is, as you pointed out earlier in the show, you're out there recruiting all the time. Now the coaches who complain about they're tampering during the season. Okay, so you're recruiting transfers, so you want that to be rolling whenever you're talking to them or third parties are talking to them. Some high school coach or whoever or parent who's inquiring and leading the way on it. You want them to be excited because your team is ranked high, and your fundraisers are out raising NIL money. Your fundraisers have always been out raising money for scholarships and for facilities, and now they're out raising for NIL too. Anything that generates conversation, enthusiasm, take it, embrace it, and run with it because you're selling 365 days a year.
Oh, yeah, I just see a commercial that was posted on Twitter, and it is Jones Ford, which is a Ford dealership in the Valley of the Sun, and the potential starting quarterback and a potential star receiver, Cutter Boley and Omarion Miller. They're driving these Fords. That's what it's about these days.
Got to cut the deals.
Right.
Chewbacca says the AP and coaches polls are archaic hokum and should be done away with forever, preseason especially. In a related story, the college football playoff rankings should start being released earlier in the season.
Preseason playoff ranking. That would be something.
It would be. This is who we're favoring in our biased universe immediately before we even see you play a game.
Yeah, that'd be kind of funny.
Number 1, Ohio State. Number 2, Notre Dame. Number 3, Indiana. Number 4, Oregon.
Yeah.
All right, fine, Georgia, number 5.
We won't get to that point, but that committee thing, yeah, they've created a big television show. Good on them, man.
Yep. And these polls, even though they know we aren't great, and I'll go back at the end of the year and look. And this year, when the poll came out and I saw you post it yesterday, I went and looked like, how good were the preseason rankings last year? What did they do with Indiana and Miami? That wasn't exactly Ohio State versus Texas or Georgia in the national title game. And Miami was 10 in both polls, and Indiana was 19-1 and 20 in the other. I mean, these are at best ballpark. It's based heavily on who's coming back and what they've done. And there's always unknowns with new coordinators, which Utah has on offense and BYU has on defense. New head coaches, which Utah has. New quarterbacks, which Utah and BYU are ranked in part because they don't have new quarterbacks. They have accomplished guys returning. Also. Yes, you're right, with Colton Swan.
You just want to be on the radar. You want to be talked about. You want to buzz around your program.
Be in the mix.
Yeah.
Don't be the one everyone's ignoring, pushed over to the side.
And then it's up to you to
win.
Go get it done.
Win, baby. Win and win and win and then win again. All right, we're out of time. The coach, Tim Lacombe, Scotty G, coming up next right here on 97.5, that KSL Sports Zone.